morning, everyone. Today is Thursday, August 18th, 2022, and we're here for a work session. And as always, we're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. And Bob, can you please take the lead?
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Bob. And well, first discussion. I am pleased to welcome Neela Mukherjee Lakul, President and CEO of EAC Network's East End Child Advocacy Center, who recently held their official opening on Roanoke Avenue. EAC's mission is critical, it's very important to the safety and the well-being of our community and our community's most vulnerable population, our children, some of whom unfortunately live here in Riverhead. I am pleased to have EAC here this morning to share with the board and the public their mission, their work, and I'm going to let Neela take it from here.
Good morning, Supervisor Aguilar.
Come on, you guys
Come on
can
up
come
and
up.
sit. All you
Come
guys
on
can
up and sit. All you guys can come up and sit here at the table, sure.
The mics are in front of you, those little black dots,
great.
just so you know. Okay.
I love all the high tech. This is very good. Good morning. Thank you so much for having us here today. I am joined today by our Division Director, Andrea Ramos-Tapper. Andrea oversees our children's services and some of our programs for incapacitated adults. I'm also joined by Robert Strickoff, who is our Chief Development Officer, and Chris Kelly, who is our Director of Development. So we did have our open house here in Riverhead a couple of weeks ago, and it was, I'm very proud to say, it was very well attended. We really appreciated the support and, quite frankly, the partnership with the town of Riverhead, because it is very important for us to have this facility here, specifically actually in Riverhead. It gives us access to both forks on the east end, where we know that there's a tremendous need for the services of the Child Advocacy Center. To date this year, the Child Advocacy Center has seen 40 children. Our primary goal is to protect children. That's what we do. As an agency, we have pillars that are really focused on our communities and the individuals in our communities, and the Child Advocacy Center is the way in which we are able to partner with other people who are able to prioritize protecting our children and create a safe space, an equitable space for children to get resources and support in the aftermath of trauma. I'm going to actually ask Andrea to speak a little bit about the growth and evolution of the CAC and why it is actually a critical piece of the service and the process when child sexual abuse or child abuse is reported.
Good morning,
Good
everyone.
morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having us here. So the Child Advocacy Center is a national model. Child advocacy centers exist throughout the entire United States. There's over 800 child advocacy centers in the United States. It is a model which focuses on utilizing a team approach to investigating cases of child sexual abuse. Children should not have to be re-interviewed and re-victimized by the same institutions that were set up to protect them. A child should not have to be interviewed on Monday at the doctor's office, on Tuesday at the police station, on Wednesday in the court building, over and over retelling their story. What we do at both of our child advocacy centers, the one located in Central Islip as well as the one located in Riverhead, is we coordinate all those grown-ups that need to be a part of the investigation, part of the interview. We gather all those folks over into one centralized location so that the children can receive services in a trauma-informed, supportive environment in a manner which is going to promote healing and protect the children. We are an accredited member of the National Children's Alliance. Being an accredited member means that we are practicing policies and procedures according to evidence-based manners. We are doing what we're supposed to be doing according to research. That is critical because we're not just hanging a shingle saying we're a child advocacy center. We are accredited by a larger agency that oversees all the child advocacy centers. Being an accredited agency is a very rigorous process. The application is probably over 1,500 pages, and we need to provide documentation and evidence that supports that we are part of a multidisciplinary team with all the different various agencies. We work very closely with Child Protective Services, Police Department, prosecution, mental health, and medical providers, as well as family advocates and the hospitals as well. We, as Neela had mentioned before, our goal is really to provide the services in a trauma-informed, child-friendly, neutral environment. The children don't have to be interviewed in the home in which they were abused. It's important that they're brought to a safe environment where the interviews can take place. That's one of the services that we provide at the Child Advocacy Center. We also provide community outreach, community education. We go to the schools, we go to PTA, we go to places of faith, of worship, to inform the public about services that we provide, as well as red flags, how to keep the children safe, what to do if you suspect that your child's being abused, and explain to them a little bit about the process of these investigations, which can also be somewhat intimidating and at times even prevent parents or family members from making these reports because they're afraid of what that's going to look like. So to be able to provide that sort of support for them and for the families is also critical. And then we also, we receive donations from the community, which very often are very critical to help the families, because around the holidays or back to school, if a child has been a victim of abuse, going school shopping or going Christmas shopping is the last thing that the families are going to be thinking about. They're worrying on, they have to go to court, they have to go to the doctor's office, they have to, keep the children safe. The last thing that the parents are going to be worried about is backpacks for school or holiday gifts. So through donations and support that we receive from the community, we're also able to pull some sort of hard resources and hard support that the families can utilize as well during this very traumatic time.
Pardon me, go ahead.
I just wanted to say, as a former juvenile detective here in Riverhead, I've been to your Central Islip office many times over the years, unfortunately. But there's nothing worse, and I kudos to all of you for doing the work that you do. Some of the hardest work I ever envisioned, I ever ran into in police work was dealing with a sexually abused child. They're extremely hard cases to prove at times. A lot of times age is a factor. A lot of times intellect is a factor. And the bad guy never will admit to it. I mean, that's just one of the things. You'll never get him to confess to it. And the serene setting that your place provides, it's not a sterile hospital environment. It's not a police department. It's when we would go into Central Islip, into the house there, you just felt comfortable. It looked like a house. It felt like a house. The rooms were very accommodating, and you didn't feel like you were in a medical facility when the exams had to be done on the child. It's needed out here, as you know. The East End towns, we would all have to go up to Islip would be the closest place. And that's inconvenient at times, trying to get the family up there and everything else. So having something more local out here is a home run for us. And again, kudos to you, because I know what it did to me in terms of handling all those cases, to do this on a daily basis of what you do. Thank you, and we appreciate the fact that you're out here.
Thank you, Councilman. I appreciate that. I appreciate your kind words. It means a lot to us. And on a personal note, I was probably there when you were there, because I've been at the CAC since we opened up, 25 years ago. So, but thank you for your kind words and your support.
You're welcome.
I echo that, and I would also just say, one of the things, you talked about how important the location is to be here in Riverhead, and it really is. We recognize that it is so important to bring a child to a safe and neutral setting like this, but we also recognize how hard it would be for the East End to get to Central Islip.
Right.
I mean, it's not impossible, but it's a lift, and we recognized that. And our goal, as I said, is always about protecting children, but also about creating equitable access, right? So when you have children who have needs, the CAC, quite frankly, is an amazing resource. It's a bed of resources, right? We have partners across the spectrum of service providers, from community-based organizations to government, to state agencies, to federal agencies. And I think that what is vital to talk about is that by utilizing the CAC, we are giving every child equal opportunity to recover and to heal from trauma. We're giving every family equal access to resources that can help them to resolve and to move forward. And that's really a big component of what we do. We know how important the Child Advocacy Center is and what we really want. And really, my big ask of you all is really to tell people about the Child Advocacy Center, to encourage police departments and schools to utilize the CAC. I get that we're still a bit of a ride from Montauk, right?
Yeah, I know.
I get it. But this is way better than Central Iceland.
Oh, absolutely.
In terms of travel.
Absolutely.
I totally
And the
agree.
value add of what the CAC can provide to a child, to a family, and of course, in turn to the community at large. Because the ripple effects of abuse are extensive and infinite.
Right.
And so our goal really is to interrupt that and to really redirect that as best as we can and to help families heal. And so, again, thank you for your support of who we are.
Okay, and I'd like to add a
Yes.
few things. Thank you for coming today. I understand the need, I fully understand the need. As a New York City detective trained in sexual abuse of children, I also know that it's not only the victim himself, but the families become victims. When a guardian or parent finds out that their child is abused, their life stops. They become frantic, they call family, and I've seen it. I've seen it thousands of times. In New York City, we had 11 million people, and so it was a constant desire to go and protect as much as we can our children. And again, I have to stress that, and I was happy to see that you also work with the victims' families, because they are victims. And sometimes we forget about that in law enforcement. We just deal with the suspect or the victim, and we forget about the family. And I know that that's a critical component. I also want to get your permission to put your brochure online on our website.
That would be phenomenal. We would
Okay,
be
and
so
I also
grateful.
would like to, I spoke to Mr. Kelly, have an outreach with the police department, so you can come in, his name is Chief Hegamilla, and bring it out to the police, and I'm gonna sign it, and I know we briefly spoke about it, Tim, as the former law enforcement here, detective in Riverhead, I'm gonna sign him as a liaison to work with you.
Wonderful, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Before you run away, I'll get super. First, thank you, foremost. May I just ask, like, in terms of, like, if you don't mind, how do you guys deal with funding and so forth? So it's keeping you active and making sure that you're not just here now, but you're here from years to come to serve potentially all 5 East End towns, and it's a way in which the 5 East End towns together as a unit can help fund your services.
Quite frankly, it's always a challenge, right? So we recognize the need. We have been grateful to have the support of DSS and the county ledge. It's not necessarily sustainable support, so we are, every year we are out beating our drum, really talking to partners, donors, supporters, our elected officials about the need for this program and for what we can provide to the community.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because there was some discussion of possibly taking some ARPA money.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. That's
Yes,
a perfect idea.
we have
This
had
is a,
that discussion, and we had decided that, and I never spoke to you, I was trying to get a hold of you last week, and I spoke to Bayrod to take some of the ARPA funding and provide it to you in a resolution. We should be going in next week, we can get in the next week, the
Yeah,
resolution.
yeah.
We're gonna put in a resolution for funding.
That's amazing. I
Okay.
can't thank you enough.
I hope we can also advocate for the other supervisors on East End Town for them to match those funding.
We would love
carried in,
that.
because you're servicing all the East End, so.
Good point.
Yep,
So now that
let's
you're
all get
here,
together.
and four of us are
I'm
here,
here every day,
I'm gonna put,
Supervisor.
no, I meant here physically.
Please.
Are you? No, okay. I meant physically here as a board, let's not get defensive. And, so I think we can allocate from ARPA $25,000. So if we approve, we'll put the resolution in, we got support from the
Thank you
board.
so very
And
much
it's
for
gonna go
that.
through.
Wonderful.
Councilmember, thank you for that suggestion. We will go to the other supervisors.
Tell them to match, tell them to match,
That's
yes.
that's a great,
Yes.
that's really a great idea, that they
We'll
should,
lead the charge.
they should be, you know, given.
I have another question, and on that note, we have a monthly supervisors meeting, where all 10 towns get together, all the villages and the towns. If you want to reach out to me, I'll see if you can present there.
Will do.
How's
Thank
that?
you.
That's
There's
a
a
better one, right?
Supervisors Association, correct?
Yeah, that's what it
called.
is, yeah. So
We would
all 10
love that.
towns in Suffolk County, we all meet, we discuss issues, we put issues forward, and we all work in tandem with each other. We don't have one town going all the way this way and that way, and so I'm gonna, Mr. Kelly, if you can just send me a quick email
Yes, I got it.
next week, and I could just send it to them to put you on the agenda.
Absolutely.
It might not be next month, it might be full, but it'll probably
No,
be
it's
the
okay. We
following
appreciate it.
month.
Thank
We
you.
will make it.
Want you to succeed.
And you can come in, the association meets in different towns. Sometimes they meet in Riverhead, Sag Harbor, we could be in Montauk 1 week, we could be in West Hampton, 1 week, 1 month. So they'll meet, I'm not sure, I have a list of the locations, I'm not sure where they are. So I'll let you know, and you can come. We also have the East End Association of Supervisors and Mayors, and that's headed by Jay Schneiderman.
Okay.
Yeah,
You know Jay.
I do.
Okay, so give Jay a call, tell him that we presented. He is the president of that organization. So we have Suffolk County, all 10 supervisors, and we also have the East End supervisors, mayors and villages. So give him a call and tell him that I asked you, and he'll put you on,
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
okay? Just shoot me a quick email.
And tell him to sharpen his pencil
So,
over there,
right, yeah.
because he's got a lot more money than Riverhead does, so.
Like
Yeah.
10 times or more. Yeah, and just shoot me an email if it takes place, so I can put it on the calendar. I think you guys did good today. I think we came across
Thank
with a
you for the help.
partnership, which is what I stated at your grand opening, that we wanted to form a partnership, and I think this is a good start.
I appreciate
And
it.
thank you for everything you do for our most vulnerable population, children who are sexually abused, and let's not forget the families.
Yes.
Thank you.
So I have a question. Are you working with other organizations in town?
Yes, so actually, I've been talking with some of the folks from OLA to try and get out to the police departments and make sure that everybody is hearing about us and understands why it is important to come to us. And quite frankly, we are open to suggestions, ideas, and any introductions that you think might be useful or valuable to help us to not only educate the community, but also to make sure people understand.
You mentioned something about getting supplies for kids, and I met these two gentlemen at a chamber event, and I know they're working with the Salvation Army right now to get donations to put school supplies together. So
That's great.
you may want to reach out to them.
And we have a Salvation Army here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
we
that's
have
who
them right on
they're
Main Street.
working, they're
Yeah,
working
great.
with the local Salvation Army,
Oh,
so
that's
they are?
great.
Good.
reach out to them
Will
and,
do.
become part of that.
I appreciate
Yeah,
that.
yeah, Councilman, we met the director of the,
And you may want to also reach out to Spirits Promise.
Spirits Promise, okay. Oh, I've heard of Spirits Promise.
Yeah, reach out to them, they have a really good program and a good kids program, they have animals, they have horses, you can't ride them, but they're therapy
Yep,
horses.
therapeutic.
So,
great.
that could be a really good resource for you guys.
That's wonderful.
Yes, we
And
we
then
can
you
actually-
have the Wounded Warrior
Yeah.
that works with the vets and other groups, also on sound. You're good. I think
Spirits Promise might be a good option. I don't think I'm familiar with them, but that may be a resource where we can begin to refer some of our children
Yep,
that need
they do therapy with
mental health
horses.
supportive services.
Yep,
So that, I
therapy with
appreciate
horses.
that. I'll definitely look it up.
Just for the television audience, can you give your website? Maybe is there a location where people can make donations?
Absolutely, it is www.eac-network.org.
And we're gonna have this up on our website,
Thank
so
you.
to townofriverhead.org, and we'll have it on our website.
Thank you so
And
much.
what is it? PAL also has
Okay.
programs, so.
Yes, yep.
And, you work with Tim, he's your liaison, he's really hooked up into all that, so.
Wonderful.
Thank you for coming out east.
Yes,
Yeah,
It's
really.
gonna make a huge difference out here, it really is.
yes,
thank you for the opportunity to speak before the board. Thank you very much.
okay, and be safe.
Thank you.
Have a good rest of your day.
You
You
too.
too.
Thank you.
Thank you, Neela, and thank you, everyone, and her team, great team. For our next discussion, I'm going to ask our planner, Greg Bergman, to please come forward to provide an update on the scenic site plan. The application located at 12 McDermott Avenue. And Greg, can you please come up?
Good morning, everybody.
Morning, Greg.
Good morning, Greg.
We do have Marty Sanluski here, who is the applicant for the project.
Come on, yeah.
Come up to the table. Good morning, Marty.
All right, so this is an application the board's seen a couple of times before. They've been working through revisions through the ARB, landmarks. I just want to touch on a couple of the revisions that have happened, and then we'll get to some recommendations. So, just to recap, this is an application for a 4-story, 49-foot tall mixed-use building, which will include ground floor commercial space, and a total of 9 apartments on the upper floors. There will be 6 one-bedroom units and 3 two-bedroom units. It is located at 12 McDermott Avenue, which is approximately 80 feet south of Main Street. The property's northern boundary, there's a vacant lot to the north, as well as the Jamaican restaurant. To the east is the commercial building that used to house the Blue Duck Bakery and Ralph's Italian Ice. And to the south, there is a single-family residence. It is a type 1 action. This has been coordinated with all involved agencies, so we are ready to finish up SECRA, assume lead agency, and issue a negative declaration. In terms of parking, again, this property is located within the parking district. They are not required to provide parking. If they were, they would require a total of 24 parking stalls. Some of the major changes that have happened to the project, in its previous iterations, the trash enclosure was located on the south side of the building. There was kind of an access driveway that would have allowed access for a garbage carter to take away the trash. The plan has been revised where that trash enclosure has now flipped to the north side of the building. On page 6 of my staff report, I have a little map which kind of identifies what's going on that north side of the property. So on page 6, in figure 4, the subject property, 12 McDermott Avenue, is shown in red. There's a property on the southeast corner of East Main Street in McDermott, which is 301 East Main Street, that's shown in green. And then there's 307 East Main Street, which is the Jamaican restaurant, that's shown in blue. The applicant for the project has recently purchased the property in green at 301 East Main Street. And there is an existing access easement along the south side of both of those properties, which was granted to the benefit of 309 East Main Street, where the Ralph's Italian Ice is. And that's for access for basically garbage removal at the Ralph's Italian Ice site. Now, in order to access the trash enclosure on the north end of this building, a garbage hauler would need to cross both of those properties in order to get to that trash enclosure. Now, it wouldn't be an issue for the applicant to give himself an easement over his own property, but they would need to negotiate an access easement from the Jamaican restaurant property to the benefit of this property in order to access it. The conditions of that easement, they were established, and there is a 2-hour period of time before 7 a.m. on 3 separate days a week, which was identified as the garbage removal window. So that's just something that'll need to be coordinated with this property owner as well, that access way remains clear so that they can remove the trash from the dumpster enclosure. There's a couple of minor issues with the exterior lighting. They just need to show details of them on the plans. In terms of the Architectural Review Board and the Landmarks Preservation, like I said, this project has kind of gone through a couple of revisions. At one point, mansard roof was proposed. That has since been eliminated. The Landmarks Preservation, again, there's been 2 iterations of the plans. One of them showed a white facade. One of them showed a red facade. I believe the applicant is moving forward with the red facade.
Really?
They're white.
Yeah, I hope it's the white.
So
What
that,
type of housing is this?
it's going to be market rate apartments.
Okay.
It will be rentals. So that was one of the comments from the LPC, is that they recommended not using the white. I mean, ultimately, the ARB and the LPC are advisory to the town board.
Yep.
I did include on the last page, there are 2 color renderings. I apologize for the 5 stories. Those are the only ones that I had digitally, but it is a 4-story building, but that just gives you a view of the 2 different colors that are being proposed. So that's really a question for the board. Does the board prefer the white facade or the red brick facade?
I'm in favor of the white myself.
I vote gray.
For what?
Gray.
Oh.
Wait a second.
Something different.
Gray is not bad, especially when you have a great building next to it, right?
Yeah, I don't like the red.
Yeah, the red sticks out too much. It definitely, I would go with the gray or the white.
All right, I mean, I think that's something we
Yeah,
can work out. I mean,
it is white, so what happens when it prints out, it has a little bit of a gray tone to it with the shadow lines and all that. But it will be it'll be a building that will have the white finish, but it's a brick texture, so it's not as if it's just a white stucco look. It actually has, it's gonna be a real brick with a,
Sliced brick,
with a
right?
white finish
Sliced
on
on
it.
the,
And it's not gonna be white brick with mortar, it's actually, they're going to install it, and then there's a coating that has a very long life that will be utilized as a white finish on it, so it has that texture, which is very important to us.
Okay.
So there's no grout in there because it's,
Well, there'll be grout, but you'll see the grout lines and
Right.
the
But
brick
they're darker,
lines
are they-
will all,
Right.
blended, but you'll still see the strike of the brick, so you'll still see the texture. And we do have some corbelled brick and some other, details around the
The coating
windows and
on the
openings
brick.
also.
I get it, I
Yeah,
just,
should look nice.
All right, so the board prefers the white design.
Yes.
Right. I mean, there were some comments from the fire marshal, from the town engineer, water district. I know the water district has been looking for a master plan for the project just to ensure that the district has the capability to serve the project. I believe that'll be in the works, and that'll be something that'll be required for the board before approval.
And what are we doing about parking? You said 24?
Well, so 24 would be if you add up the total parking that would be required for the project, but it is in the parking district, and they're not required to provide on-site parking.
so,
I mean,
well,
that is-
yeah, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
So while Frank is here, I mean, I know that the building on McDermott paid a lot of money to do the hookup on Peconic Avenue. So can this building, just hook into that pipe that the Riverview Lofts put in? Yeah, Frank, could you answer that?
Yeah, and I also have a question about monetary compensation for being in the parking district.
Yeah, one item on that is that this project was previously approved. So this particular project is actually accounted for in all of the parking,
Studies.
all of the
Right.
parking impacts to date. So if you look back at the parking studies, and it lists all of the projects that were previously completed, this is still listed there because it had full approval. We got 2 extensions, the extensions couldn't go beyond that, so the approval, we then lost the approval. Instead of a renewal, this is now being considered a new application because that's the process the town has for an application that's expired. So, but if you still go back in the parking studies and all the data, this is shown, this project is included in that
Correct.
data from
Those
2005.
number of spaces were included.
So Frank, can you?
So the map and plan is required to do that analysis. We're not just gonna shoot from the
No,
hip.
I'm not saying it's not,
But
that's not what
I
I'm
think
questioning.
that, we've got old pipe there and small diameter pipe, so to make that work, we want more of it. So we're looking to team up. We've had shipyards bring an 8-inch service across and tee it off. The restaurant that's landing there, they're gonna need to bring their service in. The fire district has wanted a hydrant there. That gets it way over there. And I think during our map and plan, what we're gonna want is a connection from McDermott to that corner, which is not that much. This isn't a huge project. It wouldn't be appropriate to ask for some massive investment, but to build that type of redundancy downtown is critical because we're going from single-family homes to multi-story buildings, and we have no infrastructure back there.
So when Riverview Lofts when they put in their pipe to
Yeah.
Peconic Avenue, that was all in the calculus, right? That was gonna be a large enough pipe to absorb?
It's 8-inch diameter. It's not, you can't start hooking too many 5-story buildings to it.
That's what
Because
I-
remember, it's not just this one. It's next to Riverview Law, it's gonna be a building just as big, so we've gotta bring laterals in for that one too.
I don't understand, on the staff report, it says 4 stories, but I have a picture with 5.
Yeah, that was the only rendering that I had digitally.
Oh,
But
okay.
It is
It was like-
4-story, that was just for the purposes of showing the two different colors.
We had
Oh,
looked at a
okay.
5-story option.
Yeah, because you know
And-
you're gonna run into a lot of problems with that,
Yeah,
right,
what
Marty?
happened was, exactly, when we did that, since we were renewing it, we said, well, then, why don't we go for the 5 stories? And after a discussion with Greg, he said, look, he says, it's really not worth it, because then it, you know, whereas this was a project that was previously approved, it would then sort of get another level, and we just backed off and said, forget about it. But I'll provide you with the 4-story rendering. So-
They do have, in the site plan packet, they do have the elevations that show the 4 stories. Again, that was just to show the 2 color schemes.
Okay,
All right, what's the west side elevation? What is the height calculations on the total of that? It doesn't look like it matches the right side. It looks like you're going over 50 feet.
4411 on the east side, what's the west side? Actually,
About 50.
So it would actually-
4411 would be on the south side, correct? Looking
Yeah,
at the west
4911
elevation,
is the south elevation.
and it's a sloping property,
Yeah, if
so
you
it would
look
be
at,
higher on the north side.
That's what I'm thinking. It looks like it's about 53
if you look
feet.
at page ST2, there's actually massing diagrams. The top one shows the top one shows the massing diagram from McDermott going downward.
Yeah, so what's the total height, is what I'm asking. on
Yeah,
that side?
and then the other one shows the massing from Main Street, so we're lower than the building to the west. And it's, one of the things that we reversed, actually, that step down to the south, actually was a very good, revision we did in response to our conversations with the ARB and Historic District. Originally, we had the taller tower for the residential entrance on the south side, and they said, well, why don't you reverse it so the building steps down similar to McDermott, so we did that.
But don't we have a 50-foot height restriction on it, Greg?
No.
No?
Right now, the code calls out 60.
60?
So on sheet A3, when you're looking at the west elevation,
Yeah.
the left side of that drawing is actually the north side of the building. That's at
50
about
something.
52 point,
Yeah, so I
Yeah.
think about 53.
close to 53. On the south side, it's about 50, roughly. And there is a little bit of a protrusion above that is for the elevator shaft, but that'll be set back on the, is that on the east side of the building? It's like the elevator, I'm assuming.
Yeah,
it's
that's
the
actually on the roof, so that's actually on the roof set back from the facade of the building. That's where the stair and the elevator go up to the roof level.
And stairwells and elevator shafts and mechanicals and that sort of thing are excluded from building height. So we're really just looking at the building.
You won't see that anywhere from the road because it's set back and it's, just for the stair as it's set back in the building.
Looks good to
And
me.
the total number of apartments is,
9. There'll be,
how does that fit in with our 500? Is that part of the count? Where are we at?
to the number, like all the numbers that we have thus far, I think it's in the low 5s of what's submitted or approved. That was captured in that.
What's count?
Yeah. But again, the way that's worded, we're working on that, the way that's worded, that talks about prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy.
all right.
The only question that I have, and I might as well ring the bell again.
Uh-oh, here it comes.
I agree that, we need impact fees and all of that for infrastructure, it's very important. But the current town code allows impact fees for water improvements that are based on
Where's,
the,
What's his
the,
name?
the impact fees that are currently
Can we
paid.
get
If
Mancini?
you research the code, were enacted back under the Cardinelli administration, and the purpose of the impact fee is for improvements to maintain
need to
water
be here.
service and the impact that they'll have on the water mains. So
Can
we
you,
don't
we
understand
have to-
why there's
Marty,
an
can you-
additional
we
cost.
have the water superintendent here,
Right.
can
Can
you
you
just
say that again?
raise
So
that?
in other words,
Wait, hold on, Marty.
He's
hold on.
here, yeah, we just want to
okay.
get,
Say it
missed the
with-
whole discussion.
Right, okay,
okay.
go ahead.
Go
I know
ahead,
we've
Mark.
had this discussion, but I had to ring the bell, sorry.
It's okay, I was not
Go ahead.
surprised. What's
Shoot.
the question?
Well, basically, what I'm questioning, and we've had this before, and we have agreed to disagree on it, but if you read the town code, when the fees were implemented for water impact fees for commercial, okay? If you read the code, it says the purpose of the fee is to provide funds for the impact that these projects will have on water infrastructure. Now, that still applies, we'll still pay an impact fee, but in addition to the impact fee, we're now paying a fee to assess that, and there may be additional improvements that are required to be paid out of pocket. I just don't understand why the impact fee, should the impact fee then go away and you judge each project where you just do the engineering fee and pay for the improvement and get rid of the impact fee?
I
It's like
read
a
that
double
as
dip.
three different things, so.
Yeah, so you're talking about key money. It's a relatively small amount of money for these types of projects. We're in the process of reviewing that and changing that. But it doesn't prohibit us from asking you to do improvements that benefit only your project. Like when you brought up Riverview Lofts, they put that pipe in to support their building. Additional buildings will need to build into that. It's not legal for me to ask you to do something to benefit the district that doesn't directly benefit you. So that engineering report is a necessity for two reasons. If we do ask you to do an improvement, we need a map and plan. Anything added to the district requires that
Yes.
as per the town board. And that engineering, the study tells you what we need and exactly why we need it. So it's almost covering us legally. And like I said, it's scalable, so your project we wouldn't ask your project to do an improvement that's gonna benefit somebody else. It is tricky. If key money was bigger in the past and more improvements were made, perhaps we wouldn't need to do this, but the fact is, we've got really old, small infrastructure. We're going from single-family homes to multiple-story buildings, and there really is no other option for us, and the district understands you need our water availability letter, so whether we disagree on this, we have the leverage right now.
Frank, where's the closest fire hydrant to this structure?
There's one on McDermott, but we also have nothing to the east of that. And we'd like an additional feed so that if something happens on McDermott or Peconic Bay, we'd have no water. There's only so much water you can get from a single 8-inch pipe. You know,
So are they upgrading for an additional fire hydrant?
well, yeah, we're not necessarily asking him for the hydrant, but you can't just dead end a hydrant on that corner. What I think we'll arrive at is just connecting that corner to McDermott, which isn't that big of an ask. But like I explained before, we're looking to do this as fairly as possible, so we have multiple projects landing in a single area. We're deciding how do we make this work, and what portion should each project pay for. So it's
And the only concern that we have with that is that it's an unknown. Is it $50,000 improvement, or is it a $250,000 improvement? We're at the end of the
Isn't
game
that why
now.
you do
That's what the map and plan is for.
That's what the map and plan is for.
Yeah.
Right, but I'm saying
You
the
assess.
developer going in doesn't have any idea whether he's gonna pay a $50,000 fee for water or $500,000. We still don't know that, and that will kill the project if it's $500,000. I'm not saying it will be, but it can be pretty high. I mean, the building across the street was over $1 million.
Yeah, but how many apartments
Right,
are
no,
there?
I understand
And how
that.
many
Right.
stories, and how much land, and,
But that's why we're addressing it at this point, whereas other projects, like, they'll get approval, they come
They
up.
came late in
Something
the
comes
game,
up late in the
right.
game where it's like, oh, you've got your permits, you've got your financing, and now you drop a $400,000 or $500,000.
Yeah.
That's why we do the engineering report up front, so that the developer, the water district knows everything up front, and they can factor that in, rather than a surprise cost at the end, which catches everybody by surprise.
Understood, so I get it, I just wanted to bring that up to attention, that's all.
Other question, is they participating in park and rec fees for this project?
Yeah, so that is required under town code. There is a $3,000 per unit rec fee. That was assessed on 331 East Main Street, was assessed on 205.
we did
And that's
$27,000.
due prior to the issuance of a CO. So that'll come when the building's ready to be occupied.
So I have a question. I'm gonna be hypothetical, let's just say it's 300,000 feet, right? I'm not opposed to allowing a setback fifth story to capture additional income for the building in order to cover that. That's just me. Because I understand from your situation as a developer, if it's $500,000, the project may not happen. I get it. It's a scenario where both things want to happen, right? So figure out how to make that happen.
I mean, right now, we just say with the project the way that it is, just to get it done. And hopefully, when we do have the review with the water, it won't be too much of an impact. At this point, we're sort of at the point where I'm gonna have my client go ahead and submit the water, for the study. And then we'll see where we are from there. That's basically what we do.
Okay. Good. All right, thank you so much.
Love the building, looks good.
Yeah.
So let's go to public hearing.
Yeah, so next step, for the next town board meeting, I believe September 7th, we'll have a resolution for SECR, and I'll schedule a public hearing and whatever the date. I don't know if we'll have enough time for posting and noticing to make the second meeting in September, but I'll get that information to the board.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Have a good day, guys. And girl. All right, thank you, Greg. And next, I'm sure I can speak for the entire town board in saying we're very pleased to welcome our next three presenters. We have H2M Architects and Engineers, we have Cashin Associates and BFJ Planners, respectively. They are prospective companies who are, hopefully, one of them is going to help us finish our long-awaited update to our comprehensive plan. I'll ask Jeff Murphy, our building planner administrator, to please bring each group in individually and introduce them to us.
And
All their names individually, Jeff, no cheating.
Good morning and welcome. You can have a seat up here. And if you need more,
chairs around, please, if you would.
seating, there's chairs around. Okay, and who's the lead on this?
I'll start.
Okay, great.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning, and we are being televised, ma'am, and we're on work session, so when you speak, if you can introduce who you are.
Yes,
It would be great
sure.
for the public. Thank you.
Sure. I'd be happy to start.
Great.
My name is Patricia Del Cole. I'm an Assistant Vice President at H2M Architects and Engineers. I'm also the Municipal Market Leader for H2M. Just to give you a little brief background, bulk of my career has been spent in government. I've worked for both the towns of Babylon and the towns of Huntington. I've been involved in their planning processes, in fact, in all of their processes. My last 12 years with Huntington was spent as the Deputy Supervisor for Supervisor Petrone, and subsequently as Supervisor Lupinacci to help his administration transition. We've given you a handout today which kind of lays out the team that we would propose to use for this assignment. And we think that there are several folks here that you will immediately recognize. H2M has been a presence in the town of Riverhead for over 50 years. Chris Weiss serves as the Director of Wastewater Engineering. He is the Sewer District Engineer for the Riverhead Sewer District. John Collins serves as the Water Engineer for both the Riverhead Sewer District and the Calverton Sewer District. So we are very familiar with Riverhead's needs with respect to these resources, with the existing infrastructure. We've done master planning for those resources as well. Dennis Kelleher is an Executive Vice President. He's been with the company for over 43 years. All 43 years he has been involved with the Riverhead Sewer District. And Bob Shiner actually was here many, many years ago under Supervisor Smith. He was a deputy supervisor. He was responsible for the formation of the Riverhead IDA. He formed the Riverhead Community Development Department. So again, demonstrating a very long history with the town of Riverhead and a very strong familiarity with all of your programming. Should H2M be chosen for this assignment, I would function as the client manager, I would be the day-to-day contact, I would be the liaison to the town board, and would make sure that we keep you informed of all of the developments as they occur. My vision would be almost on a daily basis. I'd like to turn it over right now to Mike Hillebrand. Mike is with TDR by Design, and will be working with us should the need arise for any consulting on TDR services.
Sure. My Mike Hildebrand, TDR by Design. After creating a career in land use development, I founded TDR by Design, a firm that specializes in the use of TDRs to preserve open space. I've used TDRs throughout Suffolk County to preserve environmentally sensitive lands and foster economic growth where appropriate. And I can act as a consultant if needed in TDRs. I think your program already is one of the better ones, as it is, but I think you might have some concerns.
Okay, anybody else before we say anything?
Sure. Hello, my name is Sanagita Chavan. I am with H2M. I'm the practice leader. I have over 29 years of professional planning experience, 7 of which also includes architecture. Like Pat, I have municipal experience. Have been a planning director for a large municipality which had similar land uses as Riverhead does, and I have over 20 years of experience writing comprehensive master plans in communities similar to Riverhead.
Great. So I have a few questions. I'm glad that you have somebody that's going to be working on TDRs. That's been a long, well overdue project that we haven't been able to comprehensively complete. We are in the middle of addressing solar and energy, battery energy, and that would be something that I think that they work in tandem with each other, right? So, because it's energy, we have to work on that. And I'm sure you're familiar that we had a prior company come in. They weren't able to produce at the extent that we could have. Yes, COVID delayed a lot of things, but we're two years into this, and we need to move forward. You will be required to pick up the pieces. There was a lot of research completed. I'm sure that you guys can use some of the research. There's also a great amount of research that was done through the CDA that we have, all kinds of studies and questionnaires and public meetings and a lot of data, and the UDA, Urban Design, who's working with our town square, has a great amount of data. I don't know how much information the planning department gave you, but do you know where we are in the comprehensive plan, where we can move forward? We're just trying to get a semblance of possible milestone. I know I briefly mentioned it to you to brief the 3 prospective companies to see where we are and just get an idea where we may be going.
Yeah, well, I had that conversation with all of the 3 consultants that you will be meeting with today. One of the things that all 3 companies asked for is that exact same question, and they want to see the materials produced so far. All the materials produced so far, there's good and bads to this. We created the comprehensive plan website dedicated solely for this project, and that was a great resource. Bob, I'm sure you appreciate this. Rather than having a central database of just paper, we had it essentially located on a web page so that it's accessible by the public 24/7. All material was posted there. We had a community-wide survey that was completed by AKRF. We had social interactive maps that were posted with comments on it. Every document that was produced by AKRF was posted on this website. The updated zoning maps are posted on that website. And after the termination of the contract with AKRF, they took down the website. So that is a huge source of information that unfortunately none of the companies have seen.
But that's our material, and it's
And
not
they- and-
proprietary because they've been paid
Yes.
for it. And we need to look at this legally.
We're getting it back.
We're getting it back.
Yeah, we have to.
And we've reached out, and Bob White has assured us that we should be getting those instructions today about how we can
Perfect.
put it back up on the website. And I think that would be a big help for the 3 companies to evaluate where we are. There's been a tremendous amount of work that's already been done in terms of community outreach. We've already had 2 sets of public community forum meetings. We got a fair amount of public impact and feedback from that. The attendance was not as large as we had hoped for, but we can only advertise so much. And there's a lot more work to be done. The advisory committees need to be involved. The TDR committee really needs to be met. to talk about, because back in 2003, the agricultural preservation zone was upzoned from 1 acre to 2 acres. That took half the value away from our farming community, with the promise that the TDR program would offer the balance to make up that loss of value. Unfortunately, we've seen in the last 20 years that the TDR program has not worked as well as we hoped for. So one of the key components, and this was number one in the community survey, was farmland preservation. And our TDR program is broken, it needs to be fixed, which means, Mike, if you're selected, a lot of burden is going to be placed upon you.
So what we need now, Jeff, is who's ever selected needs to do an assessment of what we have. I think that that would be something that we need to get going as soon as, and hopefully we can even decide tomorrow or early next week which company has been selected. And you need to open up all your records and be here and do an assessment and come back and provide to the public and to the board an assessment of what's going on with some milestones.
I think each company is going to have to see what the work was done prior, so they
That's
can
what we're
assess
saying,
what they need to do. I doubt anybody's going to have that ready by tomorrow.
No, we're gonna select a company and then
I
they.
don't want to select a company until I hear from these three
Right, yes.
companies what they're going to do, so tomorrow's way too soon.
No, we were saying if we're gonna select a company, they have to eventually do an assessment. Or you want
I'm
them to
not
put.
selecting a
They
company
won't.
until I
They
hear
won't
what
do
they
an
have to
assessment.
tell us.
Yes,
And that's not going to happen by tomorrow
We're not-
by any means.
Yeah.
All three.
Are gonna
need to-
come
they
in
need
and do an
opportunity to
assessment?
assess.
So,
All
Okay.
three will present us with the
Okay.
time.
As soon as possible. I
Right,
know what
okay.
you're saying. We want
Right.
this done as soon as possible, but tomorrow's unrealistic.
we're not saying that we could go out there, Tim, it's impossible,
Yeah,
okay? I know research a lot better than you.
The one
We
thing
need to do, hold on, we need to do, I'm talking about the assessment and coming back to do it. So all three companies, we all agree, all three companies will come back, got it.
One thing I think we're going to ask that whoever is selected, we're going to want to see a schedule produced by them that's
Milestones?
not as, I don't want to use the word aggressive, that is, really has got some very specific target dates on completion of certain tasks, so that this doesn't become the never-ending planning study. I don't want to be here 2 years from now and still talking about this.
We don't
Yeah.
either.
so
Not that I don't like you.
I have a couple of questions.
Imagine that.
How important, and you all have done this, you all have done comprehensive plans, you're doing TDRs, I understand. Do you look at surrounding areas and what they allow and what they disallow when you're looking at a town like Riverhead?
You meaning surrounding municipalities?
Correct.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Sure.
because that was not done on the last comprehensive plan, and that was a big fault, I think, of whoever did that. So we became a supermarket to the east end. That's number one. I have a question on TDRs. We're looking at extending building heights from, 30 to, some people want 40 feet, right?
Up to 50.
Up to 50. So have you dealt with cubic square footage when you're calculating TDR swaps? Have you dealt with that?
I haven't, but the city has air rights. I mean, there's a similar program in the city, but not in Suffolk County. They really don't, that I know of. Just per square feet. So they don't, but you could, there's no reason you couldn't do that.
Well, it would, yeah, I mean, some of these buildings, they're warehouse buildings, they're quite large, right? So if we just based it on square feet, I don't think it's a fair assessment for the farmers. To Jeff's point, when the farmers were in 2003, their land went from 1 acre zoning to 2 acre zoning, their values were cut in half. So this is an opportunity to capture some of that back by allowing these massive square footage, but also, given the height, calculating the cubic square footage in the calculus.
Right, and I guess the basis for almost all the TDR programs are, a single-family house. Maybe you could separate it from that. You mean, why does it have to be equal to, I think, the sanitary gallons? What does the 2 acres, I mean, I don't see why you can't just change the calculus with the farmland. I mean, it does, you're doing apples to oranges. You don't have, you could make your own system, is what I'm saying.
It
Yes,
seemed like it
that's
was
what I'm-
one directional then, yeah, just going right in and it had,
Yeah, I mean, just,
you could
Okay.
diversify
There
where
needs to be
they
some
land.
creativity involved.
Yes.
It's not just a one-to-one, one development right equals one dwelling unit. that math doesn't work.
Yeah, we could certainly be creative and come up with a system
I
that
mean,
works.
right now, where one development, right, is 1,500 square feet
Commercial.
of commercial, right? It doesn't work when you're looking at a building that, let's say, 100,000 square feet that has a right of 30 and now wants to go to 50. So we need to take the 30 to 50, we're looking at cubic square footage, right, to do the calculus in order for it to be fair. Because we're giving them a lot more, you know, what they're getting. Okay, thank you.
How many planners do you have on staff, and how many would you assign to our particular comp plan?
Sandy, you want to speak to
Yes.
this? I mean, we've got a team that we have assembled for this comp plan.
We have 5 planners, and I will be managing the project. and
5
I-
planners, you said?
Yes, that is
Okay.
correct. And I will be, and we are 490 plus people at H2M, and we'll be able to draw in other members should the need arise. And one of my specialties, if I may say so, is to get things done. So when I make a promise to a town that your master plan will be completed within 8 months or 1 year, I follow through. So, so rest assured, there will be no delay from our end.
I know your work in terms of our water treatment plant, sewer. Any other previous comp plan work that you've done for the town of Riverhead?
Well, Bob Shiner, who is on staff as an advisor at H2M, actually directed the rewrite of the last master plan when he was here with the town. We also, just as a point of information, are working on the master plan for the town of Smithtown. We're now with the secret component. Lisa Rickmers at the end of the table is a planner who's actually working on that now and can speak to that briefly if you're interested in hearing where we are and how that's progressing.
Sure.
Lisa was also head of Port Jefferson planning, right?
Yes, I was the village planner for Port Jefferson before I joined H2M. And in terms of the Smithtown Comprehensive Plan, we're now in their draft generic environmental impact statement phase. We're revising it based on their feedback. They wanted some tweaks to it based on changes in what has happened in the town and what their goals are. So we're in that revision phase with the goal of having that ready to go for public comment in early fall. So that plan should hopefully be wrapping up by in early 2023, just with the timelines for notice and comment periods needing to be honored for seeker.
Working these other projects, how would that affect you working for Riverhead?
We've got the bandwidth to be able to handle the Riverhead assignment. As I said initially, we put together a team. We've got, as Sam said, close to 500 employees. While they may not be planners per se, we can draw on certainly vast planning experience that they've all got. We feel that we offer all of the services that would be required for a master plan under one roof. And of course, we've got, the help from Mike on the TDRs, so we really think that we would be able to complete this assignment. We've got Michelle Pincus. Michelle, you want to just quickly?
Good morning. For example, I am not a planner, but I have 35 plus years of experience as a zoning and land use attorney. I've appeared before multiple boards around Long Island to get projects completed for my clients. I've started out working for the city of New York, doing zoning work on behalf of the city, and I spent 5.5 years as Associate General Counsel for the Long Island Power Authority, also on the municipal end, where I oversaw National Grid's management of all of LIPA's real estate. So while not a planner per se, I certainly have a lot of experience in the area, and my title is Real Estate Market Specialist at H2M, and my role here would be as the Project Real Estate Coordinator.
And Ms. Delco, I have a question.
Let me just finish up with that.
Okay.
Just to get more specific, now we touched on TDRs. Battery storage cells, anaerobic digester, solar farms. 3 big topics here for us. 3 topics we already hope to have answers to with the prior organization, with the comp plan, but we don't. what's your experience with each of those three topics?
I can speak to that. So H2M actually H2M is divided up into markets. We have a municipal market, an education market, an emergency services market, an insurance market. One of our markets is the energy market. So we have a head of that market who works on nothing but energy-related projects, battery energy storage, solar, fuel cells, all sorts of alternative energy. So we're well-versed in the requirements, we're well-versed in the power needs, in the siting requirements, which is really key. Obviously, you're aware substations, if you're near a substation, you're prime. So we are aware of all of that. We're certainly able to look at the open space that the town has and evaluate where it's appropriate and where it's not, simply because it's a part of the business that we're in right now.
Okay, thank you.
That's very good to hear, because as Tim said, those are three critical areas that we need to have addressed in the plan. And I just want to take us down to downtown, where we're building a town square. Are you familiar with what's going on in downtown?
We are, that you've brought on a developer for the town square,
Yep.
yes.
We have a master developer who's been selected and approved. We have received $10 million in granting. We should receive the projects that were selected by the state. We just went through a whole lengthy public process through the DRI, through the state, and we're hoping to hear by September which project was selected. And we'll also have the TOD. Are you familiar with that?
Yes,
The transit?
oriented district, correct, yep.
Yep,
We also have experience doing TOD development.
Okay, we also picked one of the projects. We have a master developer there, and that's moving very quickly. Two of the buildings have been demolished to open Main Street. Our focus is going to be Main Street being refocused towards the riverfront. Unfortunately, the buildings face Main Street, and the riverfront prime land is a parking lot, a huge parking lot. And so we're trying to change that direction. And the last developer did not really pay too much attention to Main Street. There's a good amount of building there with having affordable housing. There were some affordable housing built. Now we're having market rate homes. Today we have a ribbon cutting at 331 East Main Street, known as the Shipyard. Those are market price, beautiful building, state of the art, and we need engagement in our downtown town. We need you to be engaged with our community development agency. The director is Dawn Thomas, and she can take you through the history of what we're doing. So we are actually simultaneously working on two locations, the transit-oriented development and our downtown, which is very close. It's it's nearby. I think it's about a 7-minute walk. And one other project that you need to also, we would like to consult with you eventually. We entered last month into a MOU with Peconic Bay Medical Center. We are taking over their corporate headquarters, the East End corporate headquarters. It's 4 structures on that facility. There's parking. You need to be involved. Hopefully, we might be going to contract hopefully by the end of the month.
And that's for the relocation of town hall?
The relocation of town hall, and that all has to be, it's a lot. And, to catch up, it's gonna take a lot, and it's gonna take a while. But those areas we need to concentrate on.
Are you looking at the opportunity to combine CDBG funding, various grant funding, if you're able to get that $10 million? I mean, that is something that we could also look at for you, aside from the
Yeah.
master
Yeah.
plan related
So,
work.
Dawn Thomas is our CDA.
Yeah.
They're also her department. They're our grant writers,
Okay.
and they're very, very good.
So I just want to give you context. All these things are really up our alley. We have extensive experience conducting community engagements, especially downtown revitalization, transit village planning and zoning. So those are the skill sets and a past experience that we bring to the table, which is extremely important. But most importantly, when you talk about relocation of a medical center, when I talk about my past experience as a planning director, one of my pet projects was working on a public-private partnership to revitalize revitalize our municipal hall, which was not, it was since the 1960s, and I worked with the township administrator as well as the attorney to engage a redeveloper to do a public-private partnership. So the point I'm trying to make with this is, apart from the planning, legal, and experience, we also have extensive public sector experience that we bring to the table.
So I have a question. How long, when did you start Smithtown? How long was that process?
Bob, I was gonna ask the same question.
Smithtown's been a long, I was not on board with H2M when it began. The
2019.
It also suffered from the COVID pandemic.
Yeah, I heard.
And so I believe it began in 2019. There were various delays based on, as you know, there's an exchange that goes back and forth in terms of what the vision of the town is that they want to capture. The drafting of the draft environmental impact statement was done this spring, and we are currently in the revision phase of that
Right.
document.
So second, one other question I have. We have so many applications in our building and planning now. Some of the residents have called for a moratorium until the comprehensive plan is done. And I understand you have not seen what's been done to date. I do not want to hold back anything waiting on a comprehensive plan. So how does that all work?
Well, I think what we would need to do is look at
What's done.
what's in the planning stages, what's actually made it to building and housing for permits, whether or not they're just residential permits, commercial interior alterations, which really,
No,
a master
we're not
plan would
talking
have
about
a
several
bearing.
things like that. We're
Yeah.
talking about some large projects. We're not talking about like a house or, renovating a commercial space. They're entitled to do that, right?
Correct.
Okay, so.
So one of the things I would really like to, I'm sorry to interject, but when we do our planning process, right, we take a look at what's in the offing, what has been approved, because that is extremely essential, and that's a key part of our master plan that has to be done. Because how are we going to plan for the next 10 years if we don't know where the trend is going? Because we have to give you, one of the things that H2M does and what our master plans do is, we do a plan that is not a policy document that will sit on your shelf. Our plans are breathable. We give implementation strategies. We hold everybody accountable as to what the time frame would be, whether it's a short term, it's medium to long term, or it's ongoing, and then who would be the agency responsible for that. So when I say that, it sounds a little harsh, but it's just that it's a good toolkit for your planning professionals to take a look at, and for you as the council to know what's happening in your community.
Well, with that, and you said breathable, which I think is important. It's like a corporate business plan, right? You don't plan 20 years and then as technology changes, you say, no, we're not going to change. We agreed on this, 10 years
Yes.
ago. And a case in point would be Tanger Outlets. They were zoned a certain way, and they really, 3 years ago, should have completely been rezoned, especially when the pandemic came, but also with e-commerce. Right, so when you looked at what they were restricted to, they were being choked. And when I spoke with their corporate office, all around the country, every place that they're in relaxed what their zoning was in order for them to survive. So we were sticking to our 20-year-old master plan, which the way things are, the way things move nowadays, I would be looking at it almost year to year. Is this right, okay?
See, I climb a different tree than Bob. We currently have a moratorium on solar, and we did that purposely so we could have the comp plan address it. The anaerobic digester, the battery storage systems, I think those all should be put on hold until the comp plan can address it. And unfortunately, we're now a year and a half later without any of this done, but I don't see that that's the reason just to let things happen, then address it with the comp plan and find out, hey, whoa, wait a minute, we made a mistake here, we shouldn't have allowed that. And I don't want to set a precedence for anything else to come along and say, hey, but you let them do it. I think it needs to be addressed by the comp plan and our planning officials in conjunction with the town board.
Under energy, yes.
Yes.
It all
Yes.
falls under one
Yep.
category, and I was happy to hear Ms. Delco say that they have an energy department, because that's exactly where it belongs.
But I think we have to
You can't
look,
separate each.
I think there's a balance between what could go forward and what can't go forward.
agree,
And
totally.
you don't want the town to stagnate while this is ongoing, and obviously, if we're chosen, we're gonna do this as quickly as possible, but there's certain timeframes that are built into SECR. There's gonna be, you know, a little bit of a lag while we get up to speed on what's been done and what hasn't been done, and it's something that we'll look at comprehensively to kind of figure out what could go ahead and what shouldn't go ahead.
And one of the things is, I want everybody to understand too, when we prepare master plans or comprehensive plans, they're not prepared in a silo. So if we are looking at the traffic, because traffic or parking drives land uses and vice versa. So we look at everything, and then economic development also is a part of land use, because certain land uses gives you the rateable. So we don't look at these in a silo, but we look at them in tandem. And most importantly, there was one quick question I had is, was there any community engagement conducted that we could use?
Yes, there was, and I, Dawn, can you come up, please?
But in answer to that
And-
question,
yeah,
all
I-
the feedback results, the minutes of the meetings, the summaries are all on the website.
So this is our CDA director, and there's been we've had, we've conducted a tremendous amount of
Yeah, so
current study.
I'm glad to
So-
hear you ask the question. I think,
Yeah.
you know, in addition to what, I think AKRF, I think that was my biggest disappointment with them, is that they didn't connect at all with our department, because we were doing a significant amount of, you know, smaller types of planning. We did a community engagement process for our entire downtown. We had a website, a separate website. We had a tremendous amount of input from that. We did public engagement with the DRI process. We got not as good, and that wasn't our process. We didn't conduct that process. It was done by New York State. And we've been continuing to do community engagement. We're right now engaged in an activation plan with Urban Design Associates for our downtown. And so the town board's been, you know, I think more mindful about community engagement than any board I've ever worked for before. And I don't think AKRF really even came close to what they could have done with what we already had. And they didn't really even connect with my department at all.
No, not dismissing that, but we did have 8 community meetings, and we did do the community survey, and we did have the social pinpoint map. So then there are a summary of all those results that should not be dismissed.
Not dismissed, but it was only after you pushed them.
Yeah,
Because
we had to push them to do it.
Yeah, they didn't, I don't think they generated nearly the amount of public engagement they could have or should have. And Jeff was very instrumental in making sure that they did do more. But I think that's something that this board's been very familiar with and had very good results with and needs to continue with.
I think that's a critical part to this, unlike the past experience was, you need to be engaging with us rather than me telling you how to do your job.
One of our strengths at H2M is our public engagement. All our master plans have extensive community engagement, and one of the key things we think, and I'll give you an example, because Riverhead is so diverse in, you know, you have your downtown area, then you have farmland, then you have the Pine Barrens, so you have diversity. So, you know, it's literally like 7 blind men and an elephant, that what portion you pick is that portion that's relevant to you. So we've done that extensively, because really for any plan to be successful, the community has to buy into it and to get there, to understand. And then it's a two-way process. Like Michelle said, you have to strike a balance, because sometimes people just are so fearful of change. So if you explain why this change would occur, you get community buy-in. It's easy to adopt the master plan because of that process.
Yep.
And I'm glad to hear that from you. In prior years, government engagement with the public has pretty much been shut down. You have a board, you have trustees, whatever government, they create their legislation, and then they push it down to the public, and then you get a lot of resistance. So in recent years, within the last 10 years, community engagement is critical. and you said the right word, it's called a buy-in, and they can become part of the process. And I'm glad, to hear you say that, because it doesn't happen everywhere. And we need that here. We have a very active community, and they like to be involved. And we need to go make sure that we follow that, and thank you for mentioning that.
And to the extent that you've already done some of it, we're not looking to recreate it, so if what you have is usable, we can use that as a jumping off point and then take it from
I
there.
hope so.
And whatever
hope
is
so,
can be, our goal here at H2M is whatever, and I'm using the word salvage, and I don't mean any harshness, but really, we are coming in new, so whatever we can take and whatever is, the residents on the website, whatever reports are generated, that makes our life easy,
This is a market study too in connection with our downtown, so we've done a lot of work that I was never even asked about by AKRF.
Yeah, DC1, I think, is close to being completed.
Yeah,
because that's typically what we do. So just so that everybody understands, even to come to this meeting, I read up your 2003 comprehensive master plan, just to get an idea of where we are, so when we actually get entrenched in it, we will be thoroughly reviewing everything. So just want to put that out to
And
the
the
board.
economic
Disaster
development
plan.
piece, I think.
We also
that was
have the
it.
brownfield study,
We have a BOA.
a BOA,
We have, we have
2008,
2016.
16? 2016, the BOA, so
Yeah, the BOA study is
very
really good.
important.
And that's important because you look at the existing conditions where we are, you look at what happened in the past because history is important, and then based on that and looking at the emerging trends, who would have thought 10 years ago that people would be sitting in their PJs and buying clothes, right?
Yeah.
So it's like things are changing, so we will be looking at emerging trends to project ahead.
Ken?
I have questions, or I can clarify some concerns. So H2M has worked very close with us over the years through the water district, the infrastructure of the water district, and they have been hired to help us gain permits for our wells. A process that has been long overdue, long in the past, and I'd like to address towards, if that's the time frame based on when we're gonna get our permits for the wells, then I have concerns about, hiring H2M for this project.
So
to
I know-
expedite the work.
Yeah, so I know that there were issues with the well permits. I've spoken to John Collins. He tells me that we are in the process of working through DEC. I think DEC has been a big part of the problem, but my understanding is that that's on track and moving forward, and I am happy to get back to you with an estimated date. I don't have a date for you.
Yeah, I would like
Okay,
exactly
I
a
will do
definitive
that.
date towards when we can expect those permits to be in place before we move forward to another agreement, at least
Sure.
from my standpoint here.
Sure.
It's long overdue.
Okay,
And John Collins is excellent. He's phenomenal at his work, but we need the permits.
yes, I understand.
Yeah,
I'll get back to you with a date.
thank you.
Anything else, Ken?
That's it.
Bob?
No, I think I'm good. I would just add that in addition to the last company that did this, I'm sorry that you guys did the first one, but the CDA was not engaged.
Yeah.
None of our town advisory committees were engaged, which to me, they would have learned volumes because they're representatives from all over the town that represent people in their hamlets.
Yes.
So, okay, well, thank you, and I totally agree with Ken, I am aware of the problem with the wells, and I'm not happy about it, so, but thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Pat, should we have any questions after today? Could we feel free to call you?
Yes, absolutely,
Okay.
yes, yes.
And I gave you all their contact information.
Yes.
You want me to leave the cards or we're good? I can leave you.
I'm gonna give you, I'm gonna have, rather than having everybody, I'm just gonna have you as.
Yeah, that's fine.
I was at
Then you
Laser
can-
Roundtable a long time.
Good.
I've got your
Speed dial.
Your name and I.
All right, Jeff,
Thank you very much.
thank you. Be safe.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Likewise.
No, no, perfect,
Okay, so,
perfect.
Oh, okay.
I know, Dawn, are you gonna stay around for the other ones? Yes, I need you to be part of
I think it'd be a good idea if you could,
Tim,
Dawn.
I'm with you on the solar moratorium because, again, the reason why I asked them about the other towns, I really want to know. And I'm not going to ask them when they're going to deliver any of these companies. I want to say, as soon as they review the existing
All
material.
right, Jeff, can you get the other company?
Let's give them a deadline.
Oh, your deadline with the built-in milestones has to be, has to
Yes.
be.
Yeah, no
Absolutely.
more playing around.
Well,
Absolutely.
AKRF had milestones and they didn't meet them,
No, they-
so
I-
we gotta put something in place that they are met,
And they're
okay, because they had milestones. So,
Not strong milestones, though.
well, we didn't follow up on them though.
Well, thanks.
We just granted extension after extension because of
Yes.
COVID.
So,
Everything that was actually going on.
Well, we all agree that we're going to stay on top of whoever it is. That's great.
it's critical.
That piece of it,
Right.
without, right.
Good morning. So who do we have here? Cash and Associates? Yes. Great. How are you?
Good morning.
Good.
Good morning.
Contrary to our belief, this is not Greg Green. Why don't you introduce yourselves to the board?
Good morning. I'm Paul DiMaria. I'm Vice President for Cash and Associates. I'm also here with Ellen Feldman, who's our Senior Environmental Planner. And we'll be here for you to talk to us. So, do you want me to give you a little
Well, are you
background on
familiar
the...
with what's going on and the purpose why you're here?
Yes,
It's
we
for
are.
the comprehensive plan, but we had some concerns, and we had to move on to continue developing the plan, unfortunately. So you gave them a full,
Absolutely, yeah. And Paul, if you could just
Okay.
tell us a bit about Cash and Associates, your expertise in comprehensive plans, and how you think you can help us going
We'll
forward.
do that, yeah. And we're fully aware of what the situation is.
have you, okay, so when you say fully aware, you've looked at our website and
Yes.
you've looked at, studied and seen. So sitting to your right is our Community Development Director, Dawn Thomas. Later on, she'll explain to you where we are, but we are in a process of developing certain areas, the TOD, near our train station, and we're creating a town square, and that should definitely be included in the plan. It was omitted from the last plan, or the attempt of the first attempt, and so we'd love to see what you have to say.
Yeah, like I said, we're aware of what transpired as far as the details of the plan. We would have to, take a closer look at that, but we know why we're here. Cash and Associates has been in business since 1959. We're a Suffolk County firm. We're located in Hauppauge. We're an engineering firm, an architectural firm, and a planning firm, so that's the work that we do. Our main work is probably on Long Island, throughout Nassau and Suffolk County, with the towns and municipalities. I'd say, and again, majority of our work is municipal. We have very little private work. We'll do some work in New York City. We go up to Poughkeepsie, up Westchester area, and we'll do some work throughout the state of New York as well. But we're more selective just due to the distance. We might not take a job in Buffalo, so that's just the basics of that.
Paul, how many planners do you have in your organization?
I would say we probably have right now about 4 or 5 planners right now. And that would include some 1099 people that we utilize as well, that may not be employees, but they want to work.
Right.
A couple days, when we get a project, we bring them on too. So it depends on what the project is and what the specialty we need is.
Mhm.
But I think we have sufficient planners, full-time to do this work. So, and we'll talk later about some of the planning projects that we've done. Ellen will speak to that, and I think that's where we're up to right now. So why don't you go through some of the, we picked I don't know, 6 or 7 different projects that we think might be of interest to you and similar to what is needed here.
Okay,
Right, so some of the projects that we've worked on Long Island include the GEIS, Generic Environmental Impact Statement, for the Suffolk County Aquaculture Program for the Peconic Bays. We also worked on the Broad Cove Duck Farm Assessment Cleanup and Preservation Program. That was in Riverhead. We did that for the Peconic Land Trust. We completed a Peconic Commercial Solid Waste Study, Patchogue Commercial Solid Waste Study for the Village of Patchogue. We did a GEIS for transfer of development rights for the town of Brookhaven. We also did a GEIS of commercial zoning code revisions for the town of Brookhaven. We completed an environmental assessment for Suffolk County farmland and open space preservation. So we've done a lot of work for open space preservation, farmland, transfer of development rights. We've also done several local waterfront revitalization plans for the village of Sag Harbor, the village of Huntington Bay, as well as Lloyd Harbor. So we have a lot of experience doing planning and comprehensive plans for villages and towns on Long Island.
Which towns have you done full comprehensive plans for on Long Island?
We've done comprehensive plans, well, we've done local waterfront revitalization plans for several villages, and as Paul will say, a member of our team, MJ Engineering and Land Surveying, has done comprehensive plans for several towns, and they are a member of our team to learn more about them.
What towns are they?
So, what I would want to talk about is sort of a team that we're proposing at the moment. So, one of the main parts of our team would be a company called MJ Engineering and Land Surveying. They're in Fishkill, okay? They would assist in planning issues, public outreach, any code issues. They're highly experienced in that, and any other parts of the program that we would need. They have done Long Island projects, even though they're up in Fishkill. They did the town of Brookhaven Local Waterfront Revitalization Plan, Village of West Hampton Beach Local Waterfront Revitalization Plan, Town of Boston Comprehensive Plan, which was updated,
Where was that?
Boston, Boston, which
That's
was,
outside of
upstate,
Albany,
yeah.
near
Yeah.
Saratoga.
Saratoga Springs.
and that was adopted in April of this year.
I saw that.
Yeah. Pretty
So also included in that what they did was the GEIS and zoning amendments. So that would be very similar to, I think, what you are looking for here. And also, they did another comprehensive plan for East Greenbush, which again included a GEIS and a zoning amendment. So we felt that they would be good to team up with us to get this project done.
They have a lot of experience in farmland preservation issues as well as transfer of development rights issues.
Also, as part of the team, if needed, we would use Tom Mazzola for traffic studies or to review the work that's already been done. We understand there's been some work done on that, but so we thought we would add him to the team if needed. And also, we deal with council on various projects, planning project, changing zoning. So there's several firms that we could tap into if needed. So we thought that would be a comprehensive team to accomplish this project.
Of many of projects that are going on out here, I'm going to throw three at you that are of major concern right now. We currently have a moratorium out on solar farms, and we are being approached for anaerobic digesters and for battery storage. And do you have somebody specifically that could deal with those items? Do you have somebody who specifically deals with energy type situations on your team, or?
Yeah, we
Those
do.
are big for us.
Yeah, I mean, that's like an MEP type of situation, which we have done a lot of work on as well.
And fairness to you, you have not seen what the previous work that has been done on the comprehensive plan.
Yeah, other in a global way, you know, just,
Understood.
you
So
knowing that the
it's-
plan exists, you know, we glanced at the table of contents, you know, we didn't have time to really fully go through it in a short period of time.
So these are the people that we hired and then we let go and you're going to take over for.
Yeah, our understanding is that there would be a lot of information that could be used, so we wouldn't want to duplicate any of that.
Well, that's,
So,
you know, so.
and we, you know, the first thing we would do is just to have a meeting, you know, an operational meeting of what was done, go through the documents, and then formulate a plan of where we have to focus.
Yes, so I call it an assessment of where we
Yeah.
are. And
So-
then include costs, milestones that need to be completed, and then reaching a completion date.
Yeah.
We certainly would want to be able to use as much and whatever we can in terms of what was done. I'm sure that,
And there was a tremendous amount of
Right, I'm sure
work done.
effort-
And Dawn,
effort-
can you talk
yeah.
about CTA?
So, one of the issues I had with the prior firm is they're really not engaged with our office at all. We do community development, we've done a bunch of different micro studies for downtown. We have a TOD plan that we recently adopted. We also did a town square public engagement process through a firm, Urban Design Associates. Urban Design Associates was, again, retained by the town board to do activation plan for our downtown town square project. We have 2 master developers that we've engaged for 2 large projects, and we have 2 parking garages planned for downtown as well. So, and we did extensive public engagement. We also just did a parking plan update. We're in the process of finishing that to determine the number of stalls necessary for the garages that are in the queue. And, you know, all of those plans, the board was insistent on intensive public engagement, and that all was completed. So we really think that, and a market study, there was a market study for downtown done in connection with the original town square planning process that was done by Urban Design Associates and the pattern book. I don't know if you've had any opportunity to check that out. But, you know, we have a lot going on, and I don't think they understood, or I don't understand how they didn't really connect the dots there. So I think, and I think Jeff agrees, and he forced them to do additional public engagement that really wasn't connecting. The public engagement process that they were using just wasn't doing it.
That wasn't just with the downtown effort. For example, there needs to be a really good communication between the town and the school district. Good communication between the hospital and their proposed future plans. They bought the entire Mercy property. What are their plans? How are they meeting the community needs? There needs to be that engagement with these larger stakeholders in the community that was lacking in the prior effort.
so I would think the initial step would be to see if we could obtain all of the information
All
that you
online.
have.
It's
That
all
would be
online,
the first step.
Yeah.
And then meet with stakeholders, maybe your CAC or whoever, you know, meet with you to just kind of make sure everyone's on the same page, and then go from there and see who are the main stakeholders that should be met with, and then go from there.
One thing in
Okay, so
fairness
prior
to-
to that, we need to do that assessment, right? That has to come
Right,
back
and
to the
that's-
board.
I was just gonna
So we
say-
agreed today, we're gonna provide you with whatever information you have, do some research, and then give us your vision of how you're gonna proceed from that point forward. And then you can start with that
One of the
process.
things that you don't have the benefit of is that there was a central website devoted just for the comprehensive plan update. It had the community survey results, it had social interactive pinpoint maps. It had every material that we produced publicly was posted on that central database, which was great because it reduces paperwork, but it created a central location that the public could go to anytime they wanted to and see where we were. Had a what's new section as to telling the public what's new information on the website. All the work that was done was in that website, and as of 2 weeks ago, it was taken down off the
Right,
website.
I went to the link.
Yeah, so
Apparently
we
it's
should be
going
getting the
up.
instructions today. They recognize that it is our property.
Yeah.
So they have to give us the instructions on how to have it go live again. And as soon as that happens, we're gonna let everybody know that it's back and live again.
Okay.
And we, to be fair to you and all the other consultants, you need to see that website and all the work that has been done before you can get an idea where we left off.
But the stuff from my department is all still on the website, so.
Yes,
We have
and
a social pinpoint website for our downtown planning, we have, all of our prior studies, our BOA study.
The items that you just listed would be on the
There's
website.
probably 30 or 40 different, including the parking study that was completed in
Oh.
20.
And when I
Also-
spoke with all the three consultants
So on-
coming into this week,
The DRI.
I alerted them to that fact.
Yeah, and the DRI, so we did a,
RiverheadDRI.com.
yeah,
The
that's,
state.
that's the state's website,
But
oh,
you could
it's
get
there,
some
yeah, you
information.
can get some information. So we won the $10 million DRI grant for our downtown, in January,
And even though the website was
That's-
down, I did alert
that
all three
involved.
consulting teams to take a look at the town's website, because we have a lot of information on there already. So, it's not like relying just on the comp plan website.
Right.
We've got a lot of work that was already been done that's posted.
Yeah.
So it appears that you probably subcontract a lot of work out when you're putting together a comprehensive plan. My question would be, how do you maintain that those subcontractors are gonna stay on, our timeline or timeline that you've made a commitment to us based upon? So in other words, it's different when somebody is sitting in your office and you're directly like, need this done today, need that, and to move on it on a specific timeframe. Is that difficult when you're subcontracting some of the work out?
Well, I wouldn't say that we subcontract most of it out. We try to keep most of the work in our realm. We subcontract out areas of expertise where we feel that they might be able to do a better job to make everybody look better. So that would be our criteria.
It's fine to subcontract out, you're seeking out the experts, that's great.
Yeah.
My question is about the time frame on that, and how,
Well, it's just
how do
management.
what kind of, you set forth agreements with them and timeframes and stipulations towards,
Right, and these
How
are
do you
also
work?
team members that we've worked with before and that we trust. So we know the quality of their work and we know that they deliver quality work on time. So they're people that we trust.
So I have a question, and I apologize because I had to leave for a second. Can you give me a ballpark after you review what has been done? Because obviously, we're going to have to do another work session. Review what's been done, and you do your assessment, and then come back with what your time frame may be to continue the comprehensive plan and complete it. So, I guess my question is, how much time do you need to assess what's been done? Ballpark it, a week, 2 weeks, just give me some idea.
Well,
so
I mean,
we know.
there's a lot of data to go through, so I wouldn't want to try and commit to less than a month.
Okay,
And
that's fair.
weeks we wouldn't be able to do a good job.
That's
Okay,
fair.
that's reasonable.
It
Gives
just
a
gives
lot of
us,
information.
the town board, and the
An idea.
public an idea of, where we are.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, Jeff, you're gonna make that available to them
Yes.
as much as you can?
Yep.
Maybe just create a sheet with all the websites and everything and everybody's contact and just send it to them so they can start their research process. So that's basically what it is, it's the research
Yeah,
process.
once the website goes live, I'm gonna email it to everybody that it's back
Yeah.
up on.
And then we'll do it for all three, and then hopefully we can bring everybody back in a month, and then, good.
So, just one other question, when you're doing, a comprehensive plan, how important is it to you to look at the surrounding towns, the municipalities, see what they allow and what they don't allow, and how that would affect our town?
Well, I think that does affect it, and that's why I think we brought up the fact that we do a lot of work for the different municipalities on Long Island and all of the bordering ones of Riverhead as well. So, and I think that's also, sometimes if the model's good, it helps to discuss that with the public.
Yeah, I think it's also important if you have issues like bordering towns, like with Southampton, if you have issues like the school district or other things like that, that could impact you, that's something that would need to be looked at.
Well,
Oh,
it
it
definitely does.
It does.
I mean.
We have
more
one of
than
those
you
big
know.
issues.
But I'm gonna give you a good example. The last master plan, we became this, we have all these huge box stores, which are not allowed in neighboring towns. That has a dramatic effect on the traffic flow in Riverhead.
Route 58.
Absolutely. And there's no studies on what effect that has, but it's dramatic. I mean, we're the supermarket to the east end.
Yeah.
They all had traffic studies
We
done
had,
prior
we
to.
have plenty of them.
Do we
Yeah.
have some?
Yeah.
Yeah, we do.
I'd love to.
Especially when, every
They
time
had
they
to have
open,
traffic studies done.
every mall that got open on 58 has one.
That Riverside development is important to consider too.
Yeah, they're
Absolutely.
proposing upwards of 2,000
There.
additional dwelling units.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Yes.
Nice meeting you. Thank you for
Nice
coming
to
in.
meet
Thank you.
Pleasure very much.
If you like, we can leave you some handouts just of.
Sure,
Yeah,
absolutely.
of, it would be cash and I think we provided maybe, but,
We do,
and
for
MJ,
MJ
because
as
you
well.
probably haven't heard that we would
Okay.
want to team with them. So you might want to just take a look through that.
I'll just leave these.
Yeah.
Jeff, it's gonna be really a question to all three companies, but just what's your, the process in terms of cost analysis? Like, how will we determine, each company's then gonna set us up with a cost analysis?
Yes.
Yeah,
What
that's
the
the
budget will
assessment.
be?
Yep,
Yes.
assessment center, CBA's cost benefit analysis, so, yeah.
I think, I'm working on that
We'll have an
with,
idea
I'm
how
also
much.
working on the current budget with the town attorney's office, so
Good.
you'll have those numbers together.
You will need all the information that's available from the prior company that did the work once it gets put back online, so you'll know what your scope is gonna have to be in order to
Now,
get
what
back to
format
us.
would you be looking for as the assessment? Typical proposal?
In a proposal with a CBA,
Okay,
Yeah.
and
And-
including milestones.
okay, and would that include costs as well?
Yeah, CBA, cost
The whole
benefit
thing. Yep,
analysis,
yep.
that's what that is.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have this, we will have this.
Yes, we do.
Jeff, we all have, you made copies of this for us.
You already have, yeah, this is the same thing that I sent you before.
Oh, you can hold on to them.
Maybe Dawn,
One more.
Devin, eventually we're gonna put the EAC online, correct?
It's online as a work session attachment, but I understand you want it
Yes.
as a link.
Yes.
Permanently, we'll take care of that.
so Tim, I guess engineering would have all those traffic studies?
No, it would all be with planning.
Planning would have,
They're all done, yeah, they had to all be submitted when,
okay.
The North Fork Traffic Coalition is also currently, we have,
We did
we
a
meet
small
every
one
couple
with
months,
the
and we've got
COD.
counter
Yeah.
Traffic analysis.
Good
with the
morning,
COD.
gentlemen.
I'd like to just see
morning.
the last
Right
2
here?
years, you know, what
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Great.
BJ's came and then Costco.
We have a couple of handouts for you.
Excellent.
If that's all right.
Okay.
Figure it's easier to,
Give those,
old-fashioned printed materials rather than a PowerPoint.
You just leave a couple out here for the press. Noah, just pass them over here all. Is this everything that's been on the website already, or is this new?
This is new.
This one's new.
This one's new, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, when you get back to the office, if it's possible, can you email that to us? Because it's
Sure.
easier on an email
Absolutely.
with the link to put it in our website.
Yeah. Sure.
As far as collating and scanning it and creating a link.
Yeah,
If you can just,
absolutely.
Frank?
Oh,
the
yeah,
deputy
yeah.
supervisor,
Put his here.
Devin Higgins is behind,
Why don't
you
hold
can
it?
email her.
Okay.
No, they're gonna email you the link.
I can email it to you guys.
Yeah, or we can give you whatever.
Shouldn't we be saving some of this for Bayrock?
Yeah, Hidden Chup's gonna keep a pile.
Are you gonna keep a
Yes.
file for Bayrock?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So we have BFJ Planning.
Yes, right, yes.
All right, welcome.
So, thank you for your time.
Yeah, I'll start off.
Introduce yourselves.
Yeah, I'm Frank Fish from BFJ Planning. I'm one of the founding partners of the firm.
I'm Noah Levine, Associate Principal at BFJ Planning. Pleasure to meet you.
We thought we'd just start, I'm just going to highlight the trifold a little bit for you because it's our normal.
Did we get one of the trifold?
Hope so, yeah, I gave Jeffrey.
not yet.
Not yet.
Oh, okay, they're coming.
It's on its way.
Yeah, and all it is a brief description of our firm and sort of a
So you can,
takeaway.
you have a link to that also?
We do,
When you
so we
send
can
that to
send
the
that.
deputy
Yeah,
supervisor,
yeah.
that'd be great.
Okay,
Thank
Yeah,
you.
all right, great. And so this just goes through who we are. We're a firm of about 18 people. Planning is really what we do. When you look at this inside, there's sort of 5 services that we found are, we have people in each of those. Noah and I are really out of a planning group because we work on comprehensive plans and zoning codes a lot. And also you see in here that there's an urban design group headed up by Jonathan Martin in our firm, and then an environmental group. Well, for instance, EISs, we have someone who heads that up, Sarajevo. Real estate consulting, which we also do, and then transportation planning. So just wanted to give you an overview of the firm itself. We submitted, by the way, just so you know, we did submit a prior proposal. We weren't selected, but there was a proposal that we submitted to you, which your planner, I know, Jefferson has. And so we're familiar. We've worked here before. And I think what we have now for you to go through a little bit, maybe I'll just introduce it and then turn it to Noah, is a little just handout. That's the handout you have. And we'll send you a link.
Okay, great. If I, Jeff, if I can get a copy of that proposal, just so I see what their write-up looks like?
Sure.
The
In fact,
proposal that you had in the past?
you can have this one.
Oh, you brought one with you?
Yeah, I brought
Okay,
one
we'll
with
share
me,
it.
so you can have it.
Okay, I'm just curious to see what.
Yeah. You'll see, there's a whole budget breakdown, there's a whole breakdown in there. And so our proposal, we've worked here before, as I mentioned.
You did the Hamlet study in Wading River.
That's right. We
Right.
did the Wading River
I knew
Hamlet
it
study.
kind of sounded familiar.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
right, yeah. So we're a little bit familiar with the town.
So if you can send a copy of that to Jeff, so he can send it to the rest of the
The
board?
Wading River, that's posted on the website.
Oh, it is posted on the
Yeah.
website.
Yeah.
Okay.
We just
This
was
last
done,
proposal, can we get a
2019.
copy? That's on the
No.
website?
Well, it says here 2019.
No, it's not. I can get a copy.
When
That
was
was
the-
our,
That was before that.
Was that in 19?
that was our proposal to do the comprehensive plan back in 2019.
No, when you did the
Okay,
Wading
that's
River
different.
study.
Oh, Wading
that
River
was
study
prior-
was prior to that.
Like 15, maybe?
Yeah,
It
you're
was
probably
just
right.
prior
Yeah.
to me coming on
We
the
finished that in
board.
2012 when I arrived.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was way back.
Yeah.
Good.
So good. And so on this handout, in the first kind of, as you open it up, the first page is, it just gives you Noah, the photograph of Noah and myself, so we just wanted you to know, who's here. And then the project team, by the way, we've taken a crack at this, should we be hired. Noah would act as the principal in charge. I would act as the resource principal, and including on zoning. And then Mark Frecker, who's actually on vacation right now, but he would serve as our project manager. And then you can see here, we have people on transportation, urban design, and then Sinker. Yes, I'm sorry?
No, I was signaling him because you're getting feedback.
Yeah, we're getting feedback, so that's why we're waving back and
Yeah,
forth.
it's okay, I'm not sure.
Oh, okay. All right. We have a person on economic development in the firm, Thomas Madden. We also have a person on resiliency and sort of climate change, that kind of issue, Sylvia Dofaba. And we put at the bottom here, sub-consultants to be determined, because we don't know the present situation. We know that ACAREF is no longer working here, but they had a couple of sub-consultants, so we can talk about that.
That's one of the things we're going to need to talk about with, about LK McLean Associates, who was the traffic consultant up to now. And the question is, are we going to sever their relationship, or are we going to continue forward with them? That's something that we're going to need to further evaluate.
We're flexible on that. either way. We do have in-house transportation, but we oftentimes work with other, as a team. So we're flexible on that. With that, I'm going to turn this over to Noah Levine.
Sure. So in 2019, when we put together the proposal, we put some thought into how this could be accomplished. It was a very, extensive project that we wanted to do in a discrete timeline to make sure that we're meeting certain deliverables. We just put our timeline in here just to kind of illustrate our approach. Obviously, that would be different considering the current circumstances. A lot of work has been done with community outreach, and we don't, ideally, we could pick up where, as much as possible. We think we might want to have some kind of outreach at the end to make sure, to verify the recommendations were kind of on target. But, we could work that out with you, but the idea would really be to, hopefully hit the ground running from whatever work that we can get. So this just shows kind of a, a rough time frame for meeting certain deliverables, also how the seeker process sequences in with the adoption of the plan towards the end. In the prior proposal, there was, there was a request for certain implementation actions, such as the adoption of certain zoning revisions, an official map, as well as potentially a capital budget. And so what we tried to do was segment that out a little bit because those are kind of unknown items. We would still, focus on the comprehensive plan, and we can talk about those other items as well. But they're kind of big question marks. A lot of those have to do with, the extent of what zoning revisions are required. It would certainly add some time, and we could talk about that separately. We do have some questions for you, and we can talk about that today or afterwards, as far as if we were asked to put together kind of a revised proposal for this work.
All right, so can I
Yeah,
just
sure.
add to that? I
Please.
see here on page 4 that you have a proposal timeline, and it was actually taken from the 2019 study that you did.
Yes,
That's
it's
right.
very similar,
So
yeah.
it's 18 months, this will never take 18 months. That's unacceptable with this board, and you should understand that.
Yes.
The prior company had done a tremendous amount of study. We have, and work, they didn't meet the standards, they failed in certain areas. However, you need to pick up where they left off, and we fully understand that you have to do an assessment with a cost-benefit analysis to tell us where you are in cost, and you build in, your proposal. So it could be in a proposal form, but it would be a research analysis followed by a CBA. And one area that concerned me was that our community development agency was not engaged, and that's in one of the areas that they failed. And Tim will talk about the other 3 areas that the board is concerned with. And we need that type of engagement. So you want to talk a little bit about a CDA? Because this all has to come together, see where you can pick off. But 18 months is definitely not anything.
Yeah, I should explain
So-
that. The 18 months was
Yes.
our original proposal. We
Yes,
understand.
it does say it, but,
Yeah.
but you
So
gave
we,
us this today, so.
yes.
And you're saying
Yes.
these milestones, so you have to
And-
adjust
He will
where
amend that.
on this,
He'll amend that based
We'll
upon,
amend it,
after
yeah.
the assessment.
definitely.
Yeah.
Right,
But
Yeah,
absolutely.
you have to see what's been done. You don't know what's been done yet.
Exactly.
We don't
It
know.
hasn't,
Yeah.
right,
And
until
based
you
on
get
what's
that.
been done, we can
Well,
shortly.
that's what an assessment
Right.
is.
That's
is
right.
to look at
Exactly.
what's there,
Yeah.
where we're going, how we're gonna do it. It's
Exactly.
a research.
And
Frank,
also,
just so you know, because we told this to the other 2 consultants, a lot of our database and a lot of the information that was produced by the prior consultant was put onto a central website. The community-wide survey, the social pinpoint mapping, the revised zoning maps, every information that was publicly made, we posted on the website so that it was available to the public, which was great. It was a central location. 2 weeks ago, it was taken down off the website. They have recognized that it is our property. They're now going to give us the instructions on putting it back, tell us how to put it back up on the website, so it'll be live again. As soon as that happens, I'm alerting everybody, including the 3 firms that we're meeting today, to let everybody know that it's back up and live. As soon as you see that, you'll know exactly where we kind of left off.
Yeah.
it's interesting that they use Social Pinpoint as actually a platform that we use for a lot of our software. We worked with them right from the beginning. There's a possibility that we might be able to transfer for what they've done onto our license, but, you know, we could always.
And
look for that.
and I'm going to turn it over to Don, I got the idea for that. We basically told AKRF to do that. I got that idea from Don and Barry Long with Urban Design Associates, part of the downtown. They did it for the downtown. I said, why can't we apply that townwide?
It's a great tool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and as Yvette mentioned, CDA was cut out. There was no real engagement with the hospital, which is one of our leading employers and economic generators. They bought the Mercy property. They have big plans for redeveloping that. The school district, huge employer in the town, huge financial impacts in our district and our residents. Almost no communication between the various school districts and the consultant. So the communication part of it really needs to be stepped up. What's going on in the downtown is huge. And I'm gonna have Don speak to that and then have you respond to it.
Okay, good. And I just wanted you to know, Supervisor, that we're we're used to doing plans that, we've inherited from someone, or we can also do a plan within a year. For instance, and Noel will get to this, we have a public hearing coming up in Southampton next week. We did their plan in a year. So we can evaluate, assess where we are here, and then come back to you as to how much time it would take. It would not take the 18 months.
No.
Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to assure
Well,
you.
it was just,
Yeah.
this was dated today's date, that's all.
Yeah, yeah.
And I know it's from the last one, I just
Yeah,
want to clear
yeah,
that up.
yeah.
That's it.
And some of the timing also has to do with the sequencing of the environmental review.
Sure.
If the town wishes to do a GEIS, which is, more extensive, you just want to make sure you start that as early as possible so that you can do that kind of in a parallel process. So sometimes, the timeline here, really the last, the
That
third of it.
is a critical part of this. That what Noah just said, you don't wait to step 4 to begin step 4.
We know, and I don't want to be critical of the last people, but yes, that should have been done, they should have been directed to do that. A question, when you're doing a comprehensive plan for a town, do you look at surrounding towns? What they allow, what they don't allow, do you look at that?
Yes, in fact, we usually do that in the very first chapter, just what is the setting?
Okay.
What county are you in? What's the county's plan? What, obviously Suffolk County, but what are the towns around you? What are their plans?
Well,
So
to
that-
you guys, you're completing Southampton.
Yes.
Two of their hamlets are in our school district.
Oh, sorry, we're completing the village of Southampton.
Oh, the village,
Yeah,
okay. So
yeah.
in the town of Southampton,
Yeah.
two of their hamlets are in our school district. And to Jeff's point, he brought it up. If you look at their secret plan for those two hamlets, their plan is roughly 2,200 units that are gonna affect our school system.
I see.
So when you're engaging with the school, when you're engaging that whole process, something
School
to
district is
look at.
worried about the future.
Right.
Absolutely.
And we have a good relationship with the town. We've been meeting with them as part of the village plan as well as the county. The village is really tied to the town in so many ways. And so, that would be typical. We would certainly want to meet with them.
And that's
to understand-
critical, you can't create a plan in a vacuum
Right.
without your surrounding, because you're gonna fail.
And the town just completed a housing plan, which is, an interesting document that we'd want to kind of look at, understand where they see, housing needs, affordable housing. I know that's a big issue for Riverhead as well. So that's something that we see as an emerging trend, not just on the east end, but, elsewhere. So we would certainly look at that closely.
How
And
many
the question
planners
on
do you
school-
have?
Oh, sorry.
How many
Planners?
planners do you have?
There's about, I would say, planners and members of the American Institute of Certified Planners, which we all are, I would say, AICP planners. We've got a dozen. Other people, by the way, there are some other people like our PEs. George Jacquemart is a traffic engineer. He's also AICP though. And, we've got some economists. So total, we're about 18 people. And I just wanted to mention our economist, Tina Lund. One of her specialties is school children generation. She does a lot of this work for school districts as well as for, the clients we're working with on comprehensive plans. For instance, in Village of Great Neck Estates, they have a unusually high number of public school children per household. We got into that. We're looking at that right now in terms of impacts of rezoning on quarter that they have for rezoning. So we're comfortable with information that the school districts have.
And
as well.
Jericho's having that problem. Jericho School District has a huge problem right now.
Yeah.
And the taxes are through the roof as a result, but, okay.
And one of the reasons that we're also just creating studios and one-bedroom apartments were very limited is to limit the amount of children. And the school has to be addressed. It's a big burden on us at the current time.
Don, could you just give a brief overview of what's going on in the downtown, and then Frank, you can respond?
And the TOD.
Yeah, so we've been doing a lot of work in our office, some planning work. We started with a pattern book that was done by Urban Design Associates. Then we won an $800,000 grant through New York State ESD. We did a town square study, also with Urban Design Associates, and they did the entire public engagement process during the pandemic online through social pinpoints. We had all our meetings on Zoom, a tremendous amount of public input on those, and that that also contained a market study from Street Sense that we did in connection with that. And we also did a strategic parking plan, which we are in the process of updating. And Urban Design Associates is now working on an activation plan for our downtown. So the downtown revitalization included the purchase of strategically located blighted buildings. We were recently awarded the Downtown Revitalization Initiative $10 million grant.
We're familiar, because Eric Fang and we share office space
with
Perkins
Oh,
Eastman.
we'll have some interesting
So
conversations
Eric
about that, I'm
and
sure,
I go
yeah.
way back. I just
Wow.
talked to Eric about your DRI last week.
Okay,
yeah.
good.
Yeah, so the board was very forward-thinking. We purchased 2 blighted properties, knocked them down. That's what we're working on. The board selected a master developer for that project. Simultaneously with, we had a strategic planning grant for a TOD project at our railroad station. We completed that plan, redid the zoning, and just to give you an idea of how effective the zoning the board adopted was, within 18 months of adopting the zoning for the plan, we have a foundation going in on one project. The board also selected through a TOD committee that they put together an RFQ. We have a master developer, it's RXR.
What is
Working
RXR?
with Georgica Green Ventures. We're working very closely. By the end of probably September, we'll have a master developer agreement completed with them. We also have an Army Corps study, the supervisors and her team were, we have just about completed floodplain management study for downtown. The DRI process that we went through was with public engagement, and Sam Schwartz did the parking study, and they're updating that now because we've realized that we need another parking structure probably, because we're moving all that parking off the riverfront to have that become public space.
Right.
And that will, they're giving us some numbers and some information on what that ought to look like and how we can work on funding that. And we also have a BOA, 2016 BOA that was done. So those are the things that we have underway, and I think they're significant, and I don't even think AKRF knew much about them at all.
Oh, wow.
We spoke very rarely. I thought that was kind of odd. And the public engagement that was done, we feel was significant and important. And I think that was, Jeff picked up on the social pinpoint and really had them do that, but it's really just a way to make it work. Like, I just think it's so simple. It's not simple, but the concept of it, it's the town's plan. The public needs to decide. The board has really wants to and has been really engaged in listening, and I don't think they were getting that. So that's really kind of important. I think Jeff did a great job.
Yeah. Okay. And I would just say, we would definitely want to build from all of those efforts and not reinvent the wheel. We've read through the pattern book and a number of the other studies. I think the pattern book is a really great, guideline. It kind of goes beyond just design examples. It really provides an analysis of the downtown area, and so it's a great resource. Why recreate it? We want to kind of bring those big ideas and hopefully create a narrative that's good, not just for town and kind of the people who are going to get into the details, but also for the lay people to understand what the vision is for the next 10 years, so, yeah.
And we also worked with some of the people you mentioned.
yeah.
RXR, we did the downtown zoning in New Rochelle and the whole TOD around the train station. RXR was the
Yes.
prime
Yes.
developer there, so we're
Okay.
familiar.
So you work with them on that project?
Yes, yeah, we actually did downtown New Rochelle's incentive zoning around the railroad station and the whole downtown.
Perfect.
So you can build in 90 days in New Rochelle as a result, right? I mean,
By the
they-
way,
they're pretty-
we did do that, that analysis for, New Rochelle was very, very particular. They had a development director, Luis Aragon, and they had a mayor who were totally in sync. And, our master developer, who was RXR, came in and said, we want to be able to get through the approval process. We did the generic EIS for downtown to approve that process, and we review the developments coming in. By the way, we have 30 days to review it for the planning board.
That's
They're
beautiful.
on a development plan where they want to provide as much as they can, a streamlined approval process. So we have 30 days to review,
We also,
and
yeah.
we meet those schedules.
That's a
We
great
have-
model. New
Yeah.
Rochelle is an excellent model for other towns.
We have probably 5 or 6 major projects pending downtown,
Okay.
not just the, and they are, one of them is the single largest building that'll ever be built downtown, so, those are critical. We want to make sure the board has the opportunity to get those right, and, it's, so that the assistance is really greatly necessary and appreciated.
We have 4 areas of contention right now that are very hot topics. We've put a moratorium out on solar farms because we got inundated all at once, it seems. And they came quickly and they came hard, and I'm not sure we were prepared as well as we should have been for them to come to town. We're now getting requests for battery storage facilities, obviously hand in hand with solar. We have an anaerobic digester knocking on our door. Our TDR program needs to be reworked. Do you have people that are experienced in energy matters and/or TDRs?
Yeah, let's Frank speak
Yeah.
about the solar, I know that was something that came up in.
Yeah, the first one you mentioned, solar, we're just working, we just did a whole solar code in upstate New York on this, where we have 3 applications pending. We've differentiated in that code, and you're probably familiar with this from the state model, but we've made a particular large, so they call it, the state model calls it Tier 3. We made it a special permit. We want to control it, and want to control the size of it and how that's done. We've been looser on, just a home, you're putting solar panels on your home. That we've left to the planning board, but on that kind of solar farm coming in, our other experiences in Mount Kisco with this, we found that the environmental groups, we have one environmental group against the solar farm.
Right.
And they're against it
I think
because
we recognize
there's so many
Yeah,
trees. It was
deja
a
vu.
deforestation issue.
Right.
So we're used to that. We've gotten involved in that solar farm issue. And then the last one you mentioned, TDR, is, we probably know, we did a TDR handbook, which NOAA has here, for NYSERDA, for the state. And so we're used to different TDRs around the state. And we can hopefully bring some benefit of that. My first experience with TDRs, we did the TDR for Grand Central. Started in New York City with the New York City Planning Commission, is where I got to know them. But then we've done TDR in suburban area and rural areas around the state. And I know obviously that we've got the Pine Barrens here too. So I think in TDR we're fairly reasonably up to date for you. By the way, the 2 areas
I
that
was
are
gonna add-
tougher for me. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna add one thing that, just of note for the TDR is just, different creative approaches, and I'm not sure what would be the approach for Riverhead, but I know in some areas, the sending district, if there was one single-family home, would that convert to one, unit in a downtown, more dense area where you'd want it to be a receiving district? But, in this handbook, we talk about other metrics to use, such as traffic generation. So the traffic generation for a single-family home might actually be the equivalent of 3 units, let's just say hypothetically, in the downtown area. And that might provide the incentive that's needed to really have some exchange, whereas there
We
might not
don't
be.
have diversity in
So-
exchange, and that's critical.
Right.
We're only going in one
The
direction,
ratios, yeah,
and
thank
that's
you.
why it's failed.
Okay.
And I'm
Yeah.
sure Richard Wines would love hearing that from you.
Okay.
So, yes, absolutely.
He actually prepared a TDR handbook, to which I
can
sent
see
him, I
that.
sent Tim, Richard, the link to it.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's different creative approaches in there. We'd have to explore what might be a different approach. And I know that it hasn't worked. I read through the pattern book, and that was an issue that was addressed there, so, yeah. Sorry.
The other two areas, in honesty, we're a little less familiar with, and we would rely on what we usually do, or we're less familiar. Anaerobic digester is, I'm not an expert in battery storage, but we have other firms we work with where we could get that expertise. I mean, we've written stuff about this, but we're not, solar farms, we consider ourselves, kind of up to date on, and TDR, yes, these two, we would get the right expertise.
And I think that's where we are too, with solar farms now. They were introduced 10, 15, 20 years ago. The battery storage and digesters is the newer technology that we as planners are just beginning to try to figure out what they are.
Do we have an
No,
application in
same thing
for
for us.
battery storage?
Too.
We have 2 applications in?
That's why I'd like to
I don't
propose a
understand.
moratorium on it, because we're not ready for it.
I'm glad we did the public hearing,
Yeah,
and, the more I research it, it just happened overnight. For some reason, that resolution flew by here. There's something going on, and I'll get to the bottom of it, but
We worked on it for 6 months with the.
Yeah, we have.
committee.
We have
It's
without a
fine.
doubt.
It's been through code
no,
committees
I
for a
just
long
saw
time.
it overnight. Yeah, I just saw it, because it came in.
It's been like 6 months.
Yeah, we've been talking about it for a long
It's
time.
been worked on,
Code
a lot
committee.
of work's been put into it. I don't mean to negate that.
No,
by
I know,
saying
but we just saw it when it just came
I'd
in.
like to put a moratorium on it, but I would like to have it addressed through the comp plan
Oh, that's
before
what
we
I'm
make
talking
a
about.
mistake
Yeah.
in allowing
That's
something
exactly
to
where I
come
was
in.
going.
And about the moratorium, the question is, do we want to expand it to include these other types of
I don't.
facilities?
Where were these
I mean,
locations?
these things to be.
Hold on, where were these locations?
Uh,
One is on Mill, I believe on Mill, at the Stone
Yes.
Plaza.
Uh-huh. And the second one is on Edwards Avenue. Do you know where the substation is, east of Edwards Avenue? There's a substation.
And when were they submitted, these applications?
I don't know the exact date. but,
Recently?
This year.
Okay.
The one off of Edwards, you would never ever see it in a million years. It's behind the substation. You would never even know that it was there.
But we didn't have zoning then, and we still don't have zoning, so that's where I'm getting a
That's
little,
why the applications have not gone anywhere.
this is why I'm getting, how do you accept an application, but we don't have that at all?
People can submit applications. The fact that we would process them or not process them, they're sitting right now waiting for the code to be adopted.
But we're going through a comprehensive plan.
I'd like to have them sit and wait a little longer until we go
They
through
should-
the
they
comp.
should be waiting a
And that's
lot
the question
longer.
before the board.
Right.
Yes, so we're gonna make that's something for you to, if you are the selected group, that I don't understand if we're having a and it falls under energy, and we're doing a solar moratorium, and then, but we're gonna create code for the battery storage.
Because
This-
battery storage is not captured by the moratorium, the current moratorium.
But then we have to address, it's still energy,
And that's what Tim is.
it's energy, it's all about energy. Okay, anyway, we'll work on that, we'll have to have a conversation on that.
Would you like for us to quickly go through this? We have some of our experience, we could skip it and just leave it for you.
No, you can do it, yes, I'd like to hear everything you have to
sure,
say.
sure.
Absolutely.
Just, really quickly on the next page, we just listed our comprehensive planning experience. As Frank mentioned, we are planners at heart. Comprehensive plans are a large portion of what we do. We do a lot of other things, but we listed some of the plans that have been done probably in the last 10 years. Many in New York State. Southampton Village, which you'll see on the right-hand page, is up for adoption. We have a public hearing, on Tuesday. We think it's well received, fingers crossed, all goes well, but, so far it looks pretty good. The village is different than the Riverhead, obviously, but there are some issues that are similar, growth and development, particularly in the last couple of years. COVID has, moved a lot of people and has caused a lot of development pressure on the east end of Long Island. traffic congestion, limited affordable housing, sewer and infrastructure issues, and, preservation of natural and historic resources. These are all issues that are, we would anticipate dealing with here. The hospital was mentioned in Riverhead. We did work with the hospital Southampton Hospital is planning to relocate from its current facility in the village to Stony Brook, Long Island, or Southampton. And so working with them and the village to determine appropriate future land uses should that move happen, which is anticipated. And then just some of our other planning experience on Long Island and elsewhere. As you know, we did work on the Wading River study, and we worked along Route 25 all the way to the town of Brookhaven as well, looking at different hamlets along the corridor. We have worked in the numerous communities in Nassau County and Suffolk County. We finished a Bayport zoning study about 2 years ago. We did design guidelines for Main Street in Port Washington. We did a plan for Melville Employment Center in Huntington. The next page shows some of our other work, the New York Rising Community Reconstruction Plans, which happened post-Sandy, but that really brought us into the world of resiliency planning, and thinking about infrastructure, sea level rise. We did the Nassau County Comprehensive Master Plan, which Frank was closely involved with. The Cold Spring Harbor Laboratory Environmental Impact Statement, which was really an environmental review process, as well as the TDR handbook, which we already discussed. As far as our approach.
I have one quick
Yes,
question.
please.
Go ahead.
I'm not sure if I heard it correctly, so you're stating that you completed the Nassau County
Yes.
comprehensive plan for the
Yeah.
entire county?
The
Yeah.
entire county.
So
Tom's,
that's gotta be a feat for you
yeah,
guys.
by the way,
How long
it
did
was,
that take?
and,
How long did, yeah,
How long did that take?
yeah, we actually were able to do the work within 2 years.
serious?
Yeah, now, I will credit this, I don't want to get into
Don't get into the
politics
weeds,
here,
but it's
but
impressive.
Tom Swazi had an interesting way to do the plan. We had discussed it with him when we said, look, you got to be able to do a plan countywide that focuses. You're not going to try to treat everybody, the same way. Everything. So we came up with this cool downtowns idea, and I credit Tom with that. But it was what I would call a 90-10 plan. 90% of the county was being preserved. We weren't getting into neighborhoods. We were going to preserve the zoning. We were going to respect what the villages and towns had in Nassau County. But we were going to focus on TOD around train stations, and we were going to focus on where communities wanted development. And so it enabled us to get the support of most communities. I think the only mayor at the time was a little bit concerned. I still remember her very well. It's Rockville Center. We've ended up working in Rockville Center now, and we just finished their new zoning downtown. But she wanted, 3 stories. That was her mantra, and we accommodated it in the plan. We tried to be very inclusive of all those villages, and of course the big towns. But we did finish it successfully, and it was completed.
So in other words, when you do research and you have a large population, I say you're doing a global issue, you have to target your population.
Yeah.
In order to, and hope that it's representative of the rest of the population. So it was targeted study, and it was, okay, great.
Yeah.
The next page just kind of tries to explain our approach, which is to not create encyclopedias. We don't want to create a document that's going to sit on the shelf and will never be read. We want to take the data, synthesize it, and really try and suss out big issues. So this is a plan, a master plan we did for Hoboken, New Jersey, which is a dense environment, very different, obviously, than the town of Riverhead. But we did the analysis. You can see here on the first page, showing that there was a lot of growth, showing that with graphs. But then what does that mean? So getting into a vision and getting into specific strategies and action items that the city could move forward with. So really trying to create something that is usable. The next page talks about our community engagement tools. In addition to in-person meetings and focus group meetings and stakeholder meetings, we have a lot of web-based tools that we can use. This shows Social Pinpoint, which we also happen to use. It's kind of a nice, nice coincidence. We're familiar with that tool, and, we could talk with those administrators to see if that platform could be moved over. I don't know the answer to that, but it's certainly something that should be looked into.
It'd be nice if we could just
Switch it
seamless
over.
That
process.
would
Really
be-
would be
That would be,
nice, yeah.
And, create a project website, a logo, make it graphically interesting and engaging. That is an important part of the process, just the communications aspect. It's
So
kind-
you think we'll be able to have a link with our progress as you move forward?
Well, that would be the hope,
Yep,
yeah,
That would be
certainly.
the hope.
And with that, I'll just pass it back to Frank, just kind of the.
Yeah, this last page is just the commercial part of this, YBFJ and our team. We hope if you check, and I presume Jeffrey will check our references, I think, for instance, Southampton, I don't know how the public hearing will come out next Tuesday night, but I brought a copy if you want it. of the
Yes, I would like
Southampton-
to see it.
Yeah, the Southampton plan. It's a
I
village
might
plan.
just show up.
Yes,
I
you
have a
might
lot of
show
interest
up.
in Southampton.
Yeah, it's at
I
6
lived there
p.m.
for 21 years, and I have a lot of interest in there, so.
Village Hall, 6 p.m. next
Okay.
Tuesday night.
But I'm sure Warren would love to see me supporting him.
Yeah, but we have the master plan experience in Long Island, which I hope we've kind of showed you a little bit of this morning, and then we've got this toolbox of items we can use for and pick up on what AKRF did in terms of community engagement. As Noah said, hopefully the same social pinpoint tool. We went over the plans. We're trying very hard to create plans that can be read on a couple of levels. One, skim through, you realize what the main points are, and then read on another level. So they're visually engaging, and we're trying hard to do that because people read on different levels today. And we really pride ourselves in trying to be on time, on budget. It's not always easy to do, but
Oh,
we're
no.
product-oriented in terms of that, so that we try to get through that on time and on budget. If you call Southampton, I think you'll find both the mayor and the new planner.
I might call him.
Yeah, you might call
I
him.
will be calling him.
Call the mayor and, or the chair of our committee, who's Bill Manker in Southampton. I think they can fill you in. And people who are here, Noah and I, and that we've listed, will actually be, we're not a huge firm, so we're not, I know you're not interviewing anybody like AECOM, one of the largest engineering firms around here in New York, and we're not coming here and then suddenly we're gonna disappear. You've got our senior level commitment. We're a small firm, this is what we do, we specialize in comprehensive plans, so.
And if you give us a deadline, I want to be clear because we're going to hold you to it. So,
And by the way, thank you, I like that. I want to be held to a deadline because I find deadlines, it's human nature. If you don't have deadlines, you're not on time. And quite frankly, for us, for our point of view, I think this is true of all consultants, though.
well, and
If
that's
you don't
been
stay on time, you lose money.
a systemic problem in the town. There's so
Yeah.
many consultants with just open-ended contracts, and it just goes on and on
That's
and
gonna
on.
change, that has to
And
change.
while I'm sitting
I
here,
agree.
I want to see deadlines from every consultant, period. And if they miss it, there's a clawback.
Yeah,
Simple.
we just finished 2 DRI plans in other communities, and yeah.
Oh, you've done 2 DRIs?
We've done.
We've done about a half dozen
Yeah,
Who?
DRIs.
we just.
Anyone in Long Island? Or?
Well,
Yeah, we could have done.
Yeah, I worked on, I was the project manager for the Tannersville plan up in the Catskills.
Yes, I
We
know
also
that.
did Endicott, which is a little bit further west. I think the state has seen us as, I don't know, we got kind of pigeonholed into the Mid-Hudson Valley Capital Region area for whatever
Okay, good.
reason. We do a lot of work out here. We would love to work here. It's not really our decision as far as where you get placed.
State tells us where we're going.
Yeah,
Like we went to Glens Falls, we went to Middletown and Orange County.
but yes, we would have loved to work here.
We would like to have worked in Long Island.
Yeah, my family lives
Short
in
commute.
Southampton, so,
Yeah.
It would have been
Yeah.
easier
Oh,
for me
okay.
than Tannersville.
High school basketball
So
championships
you guys
every year.
obviously have proven yourself,
Yeah, and we
Um,
like the deadline idea,
we,
because, the state set up those deadlines, and I like meeting them, because if you have a deadline and you can meet it, it usually means you stayed on budget, and so we're believers in that.
Well, staying on budget and deadline, to me, And,
That's,
you know,
exactly.
So, I,
So finishing up Southampton Village, timing-wise, works good for you in terms of
Oh,
taking
yeah.
on
And the
another
DRIs just ended as well.
municipality.
Yeah, the DRIs, 2 DRIs we just submitted 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
And,
I love that idea, you're doing the DRI with the plan.
Yeah, it's
How
good
great is
stuff.
that?
Yeah.
I mean, to bring that all together full circle.
Yeah, so you completely understand what we just did.
Yeah.
we just did.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as Frank mentioned, Eric Fang is,
That was an artist process, that was,
it's a very difficult
it
process.
was for us with all the stakeholders, I mean,
It's a grind.
we're still
Yeah.
walking around like zombies.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
that's,
for
that's less than a
4.5
year.
months.
You think about, it's probably, from the time that you sign the contract when you get going, I think we started probably in September, for the DRI. And
Yeah, it was-
think about,
it was a
what you can do,
process.
in that short time
Yeah,
frame.
no,
So-
it was a great experience.
The outcomes were great.
Yeah.
We've had great outcomes, I mean, all the work, night, day, meetings, every well,
Yeah.
every call and
Yeah.
everything being proofread. But we just finished the process, and the outcomes were great, and we should be hearing in September
Yeah,
what projects were selected,
Projects are selected.
and we're shovel ready for them.
yeah.
So,
Right.
and that's something that you would need to verse yourself. We have all the reports, and Dawn has all and it's riverheaddri.com
Yeah.
is the
Yeah,
website.
I got from Eric his overview.
Oh, you did, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be interested to have a conversation with them.
so guys, just out of curiosity, so you're gonna review what has been done, not holding it any,
Yes.
just ballpark it. How long do you think that would take for you to do and then say, okay, we'll take it from here, this is gonna be the time and this is gonna be the cost?
In the
don't think
form
we
of
have
a
That
proposal.
review, process of what
Once you
has
get the
been done.
website live and you see it
Yeah.
and review all the
I'd say
background.
2 to 3 weeks.
Oh, okay, no,
Inside of
that's
a
great,
month,
that's ballpark, yeah.
we're just, as soon as we see the product that ACARF did, we'll be able to
Yeah.
Yeah.
get a
We're not
sense
gonna
of
look
where they
through it
were.
line by line, but just
Yeah.
to get a sense of just the breadth
You'll
of
know
what's
it,
there
okay, great.
and what needs to be done.
So in the form of a proposal would be great.
Yes.
With
Yeah.
a cost benefit.
Yeah.
Yeah, as soon as we see what they've done and what we can use, we're not gonna, as Noah said earlier, we don't wanna reinvent the wheel. We wanna use what they.
We don't
You
want
wanna
to pay
keep
you
it
to
rolling.
reinvent the wheel
Yeah,
if it's already
that's right,
there.
that's right, you don't wanna pay us.
Well, you have the
Right.
experience also,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that's a good
Yeah,
part of it, where you could just come in and you know the basics of a
Yeah.
comprehensive plan. You're obviously
Yeah.
very well versed,
yeah,
and you can just plug in and look at the town and look at
and that's
maps
what,
and
that's what we try to
surveys.
do.
I guess I just have 2 questions. First, what did you mean by cost benefit?
What's it gonna
Budget.
cost?
Oh, the budget.
Oh, the budget, yeah,
Okay,
we'll
yeah,
be
yeah,
able to do that. You can tell originally you now have it, I don't have it in front of me, but originally our budget was somewhere in the high 400,000s. We're assuming if ACARF did, if ACARF did enough work, or they got halfway, let's say 50% through the process, we can pick up and do something in the 350,000 range, I think. Now, I'm guessing as to where ACARF,
Okay.
how much
that's
they got
something
done, I don't know. I gotta see.
And that
That's
would
fair.
Wait,
include.
you were 400,000 and now you're saying if they did have to
We're in
work-
high, we came in the high, I think our budget was
I don't know
around
if we should be
490.
discussing prices,
Yeah,
because you
until
don't
we
know where
find
we
out.
are. I think this is gonna go
Yeah.
nowhere. I understand the process.
Yep,
You need to assess what's going on.
Yep.
Well, we have to look at it. You have to see where we are as far as what's been paid out, their milestones. You guys have the experience, so if it gets to that point,
Yeah.
you should start that process for us and do it in the form of a
Okay.
proposal.
And it's assumed that a GEIS would be included,
Yes.
am I correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
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 And what we would do with that GIS, we do want to start so that the town board becomes lead agency for it right away, so we get into the process.
If there are 4 steps to a comprehensive plan, with step 4 being the GEIS, you don't wait for the first 3 steps to be finished before you begin step
Yeah.
4.
As soon as you have any indication of what kind of the tenor of the recommendations are, that's probably a good place to start.
Good.
2/3 of the way through the process.
Well, impressive.
Great.
Right?
See you next week in Southampton.
Thanks very much.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll be there. Our part of the public hearing is limited to about 5 minutes, because the public is gonna get their say.
That's what Greg
Thank you for coming out,
Yeah,
gentlemen.
Thank you
okay,
for coming.
great.
Tell Erica I said hi.
Yes, say.
I will.
Yeah, I tell him from the supervisor, he actually, he was the driver behind our review on the DRI, so he was very patient.
have it easy.
Oh, okay.
Yes, he was
You
very
get to know the
patient.
consultants very well in that process, right? A lot of time.
All right, everyone,
time,
this concludes our open session for today, and in a moment, I'm gonna ask you for a first and a second to go into executive session to discuss the following contractual matters related to an agreement with the Suffolk County Water Authority and the town of Riverhead, and that's gonna be with Rothwell, Mancini, Prudenti, Thomas, and Rothar. And board, can I please have a first and a second to enter into
So moved.
executive session?
Second?
All in favor? All opposed? So moved. Everyone, please be safe and enjoy your weekend.